Chapter 380. Everyone was shocked that Li Fan chose to be the champion of the arena. How could this guy be so daring? Is he brave, or is he brainless? This wasn't a joke. There were so many of them, and none of them were ordinary people. Which one of them was not an expert? Even if they were young, their strength was not for show. How was it possible to fight 4 people at once? No one believed that Li Fan could fight 4 people at once, let alone in a continuous battle. There was almost no time to rest for the champion of the arena. This kind of fighting style was simply cruel. Yin Wuchao was also very surprised. He did not expect Li Fan to choose such a method. However, this was exactly what he wanted. He felt that Li Fan was very strong. He cultivated both internal and external cultivation, and his strength could even crush Tang Wei, who had eaten the heavenly demon pill. If he did not handle this well, he would become the biggest variable in today's martial arts competition. However, even if he was strong, he would not be able to withstand 4 consecutive battles. Huashan's Chenjunwa's strength was not for show. With the few of them around, Li Fan would definitely not be able to win. However, the reason why he chose to fight 4 people at once was probably to advertise his escort agency. After all, regardless of whether he could really fight 4 people at once, as long as he defeated 1 or 2 of them, his reputation would be established. Yin Wuchao felt that his judgment couldn't be wrong. If he wanted to safely take on 4 opponents by himself, then only someone at his level could do it. Under the crowd's surprised gaze, Li Fan slowly walked into the arena and patted the dust off his body. "Who's first?" Li Fan asked calmly with his hands behind his back. "It's me." Yishan stepped on the cloud-climbing ladder. His body leaped twice in the air before he landed steadily on the arena. The moment an expert made a move, it was obvious. The moment he displayed the cloud-climbing ladder, it attracted a lot of cheers. Yishan lived up to his reputation as a Wudong disciple. His cloud-climbing ladder was executed beautifully. Even Li Fan wanted to applaud him. However, the level of Qinggong was only for escaping. To determine the winner, it still depended on the fists and feet. "I'm asking you." Yishan was not courteous to Li Fan at all. He immediately berated him. "You said that the Wudong traitor is living with your subordinates. Is that true?" "There's no need to spread rumors about such things." Li Fan scrutinized the proud and arrogant Wudong disciple in front of him. "Yan Kai is now following me. Do you have any objections?" "Wudong traitor, everyone should stay away from him." Yishan wasn't polite at all. He clenched his teeth. "You actually accepted him? Then I'll teach you a lesson as well. I don't know if he's a traitor or not. All I know is that Yan Kai is with me now. He's my brother." Li Fan was calm and unperturbed by Yishan's prestige. "If you want to touch my brother, you'll have to ask my fist first." His words made Yan Kai, who was below the stage, tear up. "Sigh, I didn't come for nothing." Yan Kai put a hand on Guan Wenbao's shoulder, wiped his tears and said, "Li Fan made me wet." "Get lost." Guan Wenbao kicked Yan Kai away. "If that's the case, I'll first beat you until all your teeth fall out. Let's see if you can still say such tough words." "Interesting." Li Fan crooked his finger at Yishan. "Seeing that you're Yan Kai's junior, I'll let you use only one hand." "Arrogant." Yishan was furious. "You're indeed jackals of the same tribe as that traitor. I'll beat you until you pee in your pants." After saying that, Yishan's body suddenly leaped forward. His body moved like lightning. Almost in the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of Li Fan. At the same time, Yishan's Tai Chi palm went straight for Li Fan's forehead. But Li Fan's crane claw slapped his palm away. Tai Chi martial art focuses on defense, but you like to attack. The best defense is offense. Our Tai Chi martial art can advance and retreat at will. This kind of surprise attack is not something that a traitor like Yan Kai can learn. It's also not something that an ignorant bandit like you can guess. After saying that, Yishan launched another Tai Chi palm straight at Li Fan's chest. But Li Fan put one hand behind his back. His body leaned to the side, and the other hand was placed in front of him, gently grabbing Yishan's wrist. Yishan was taken aback, but Li Fan had already pulled him behind him with his strength. At the same time, Li Fan kicked Elvishan, tripping him. Elvishan used both hands to support himself on the ground and rolled on the ground. His fall was not too bad. However, he was the same as Yen Kai below. His face was filled with shock. What Li Fan had just demonstrated was the Wudang Mountain's Tai Chi fist. No one knew that Li Fan had entered the ape-faced Buddha state. Since the last time he fought with Murong Ing, Li Fan had improved his ability to learn from the ape-faced Buddha. Now, as long as Li Fan entered the ape-faced Buddha state, he could simulate some of the moves that he had seen before. Li Fan gave this move a very awesome name, Heavenly Embodiment of Nature. Although it was not like the real myth, where the body could be enlarged, it mainly imitated the spiritual chi of heaven and earth to achieve what he could not do himself. Li Fan's Tai Chi fist had stunned Elvishan. That Wudang trader actually taught you this move as well. This was the only explanation that Elvishan could think of. Yen Kai was also muttering under his breath. When did Li Fan secretly learn it? Excuse me, I've only learned a little bit of it myself. Li Fan smiled, giving people a very humble feeling. Below the stage, Murong's eyes were sparkling. Her brother-in-law's bearing was really not something that these ordinary people could compare to. Nonsense. I will teach you a lesson today. Elvishan was very annoyed that his opponent had used his own martial arts. He turned his body, and the clothes on his body bulged, obviously caused by the circulation of true qi. Elvishan was very confident in his martial arts. How could a knockoff Tai Chi fist defeat his Tai Chi fist? Elvishan's Tai Chi palm kept attacking Li Fan, but Li Fan only used one hand to constantly pull Elvishan's attack away, dissolving it again and again. No matter how hard Elvishan tried, Li Fan was like a roly-poly doll, not taking any of his attacks. Not long after, Elvishan's forehead was covered in cold sweat. Yin Wuchao also thought to himself, this Li Fan's Tai Chi fist has some skill. He has learned a lot of things, but I don't know how proficient he is. Little tyrant, don't be complacent. After exchanging 30 to 40 moves, Elvishan was still unable to injure Li Fan. He finally could not hold it in anymore. Since you asked for it, I will let you have a taste of the power of Long Yang Tai Chi hand. As he said that, Elvishan's temples suddenly bulged, and his eyes emitted a bright light. Chapter 381. Elvishan decided to use the Dragon Sun Tai Chi hand to kill Li Fan. His heart was filled with viciousness. That viciousness was also revealed on his face. Little Overlord, today is the day you die. Elvishan suddenly took a step forward, causing the ground to tremble. His palm seemed to be covered with a layer of golden light as it suddenly slapped towards Li Fan's face. Dragon Sun Tai Chi hand. This palm technique broke the law of Taiji fist's yin and yang conservation. It was a palm technique of extreme yang. This palm strike had injured Yen Kai just now. It was truly powerful. However, Li Fan's expression did not change. His palm was placed on Elvishan's wrist. He actually pressed down on Elvishan's wrist, causing his palm to hit the ground. Bam! The ground split open. Pieces of gravel flew everywhere. Elvishan was obviously stunned. He did not expect that Li Fan could even break his Dragon Sun Tai Chi hand. How could he possibly break through this move of his that was filled with yang energy? Elvishan could not believe his eyes. Taiji fist is a combination of hardness and softness. Li Fan's voice was still indifferent as it resounded in Elvishan's ears. You blindly pursue extreme yang. Although it is powerful, it is inferior. How dare you? How dare you talk nonsense about my Wudang divine art? You deserve to die. Elvishan seemed to have lost his mind and lost his mind. He stretched out his hands as if he wanted to slap Li Fan to death. But Li Fan's knee had already been raised and kicked Elvishan's chin, directly sending Elvishan flying out and falling on his back on the ring. Just like what Yen Kai said, your Taiji fist is still lacking in maturity. Li Fan said, go back and train for a few years before coming back. With that, Li Fan was not polite at all. He kicked Elvishan's body and directly kicked him out of the ring. The new head disciple of Wudong Mountain was eliminated by Li Fan just like that. Li Fan didn't even need 2 hands to deal with him. LV Shan lay on the ground, still unable to react. His expression was somewhat dull. This kid is quite powerful. The 5 Tigers Sex Kachuanza had already adjusted a little. He stood below the challenge ring and watched as Li Fan easily defeated LV Shan using Taiji Fist. He could not help but be amazed. "It's your turn next, my friend from Hua Mountain." Li Fan ignored the defeated LV Shan and his gaze landed on Chen Junhua. "Who?" Chen Junhua leaped more than 3 meters high and more than 5 meters away, landing directly in front of Li Fan. He unsheathed the Mount Hua sword from his back and pointed it at Li Fan. "Chen Junhua of Mount Hua, please enlighten me." "Phenomenal Express, Li Fan." As Li Fan spoke, he stretched out his hand and waved at the weapon rack next to him. His vital energy pulled a goose feather saber from the rack and it landed in Li Fan's hand. The 5 Tigers Sex saber technique was quite good. "Why don't I help him finish the battle between you two?" Li Fan's purpose for coming here was not only to promote the escort agency but also to learn from the various experts. In his ape-faced Buddha form, his ability to learn was also very strong. However, when Li Fan removed the ape-faced Buddha form, he had to temporarily forget what he had learned. It was as if the memories were stored in another brain. It was very magical. "All right." Chen Junhua did not speak much. It was as if he was born with few words. He only raised his sword and pointed it at Li Fan, as if he wanted to split Li Fan in half. "What a joke." Ku Chuanza laughed mockingly. "You want to imitate my 5 tigers breaking the gate saber? It's not that easy." Before he could finish speaking, his expression turned slightly sluggish. This was because Li Fan had already made his move. Chen Junhua was a martial artist who was good at defending and counterattacking. Therefore, Li Fan followed his opponent's wishes and rushed toward Chen Junhua with his goose feather saber. His body suddenly disappeared in front of everyone. Then he split into 4 and appeared on Chen Junhua's left and right. 1 tiger out of the cage, 2 tigers coming down the mountain, 3 tigers contending for hegemony, and 4 tigers wreaking havoc. This was the unique skill that Kachuanza had used at the last moment. It was also Kachuanza's first time practicing the 4th saber move, so he was somewhat unfamiliar with it. However, when Li Fan used this move, it felt a little more perfect. This is impossible." Kachuanza could not believe his eyes. Even Yin Wuchao was gripping the armrests of his chair. "Humph." Chen Junhua raised the sword in his hand and prepared to use the same trick again. Although he was also surprised by Li Fan's ability to imitate, this move had no effect on him. However, the 4 Li Fan beside Chen Junhua did not wait for his sword to fall and quickly threw out their goose feather sabers. This 4 tiger saber technique was much smoother than Kachuanza's. Even Kachuanza himself could not use his saber so quickly under the condition of the 4 tiger sabers. Because creating these 3 afterimages also consumed a lot of true chi. At this moment, Kachuanza's body was somewhat empty. He needed to accumulate a certain amount of true chi before he could make a move. As for this little overlord Li Fan, how did he do it? 4 astral sabers spun out and flew straight toward Chen Junhua. Chen Junhua frowned. He held the sword horizontally and slapped the true chi with his palm. Dang! Sword chi surged from the sword and rushed into his hand, canceling out Li Fan's astral sabers. The remaining 3 Li Fan's figures disappeared, and Li Fan had already arrived in front of Chen Junhua. The 5 tiger gate breaking saber technique was all about ferocity. Li Fan held the goose feather saber, lowered his body, and fiercely slashed toward Chen Junhua. His saber technique was very fast. His saber was like a gale. Although Chen Junhua's movement seemed slow, he seemed to have already expected Li Fan's move. His sword was already waiting for him to make a move. He followed the slash and cut Li Fan's body into 2. But Li Fan's body was split apart just like that. What was cut was only an afterimage. Li Fan had already appeared behind Chen Junhua and slashed horizontally with the saber in his hand. Chen Junhua's reaction was very fast. He lowered his body and dodged Li Fan's slash. At the same time, he kicked his sword and swung it toward Li Fan. Li Fan's body was once again cut into two, but it was still an afterimage. Cold sweat finally appeared on Qin Junhua's forehead. Li Fan stood in front of him, holding the goose feather saber, and lightly said, "Young hero Chen's sword technique is indeed profound, but it lacks a trace of spiritual qi. I'm still lacking in martial arts practice. I've embarrassed myself in front of you." Qin Junhua's answer was flawless. He took 2 steps back, readjusted his emotions, and then looked at Li Fan in front of him. "The 5 tiger gate breaking saber technique in your hands is indeed refreshing." This was the most Qin Junhua had said. He waved his Mount Hua heavy sword, bringing up a sword chi. "Let's continue." Li Fan nodded, just in time. The warm-up is over. Chapter 382. Li Fan had just used the 5 tigers cracking the gate blade technique, which was as fast as a shadow. Was it just a warm-up? The audience, more or less, did not believe it, thinking that Li Fan was bragging. Qin Junhua of Mount Hua had high hopes. His strength was ranked among the top 10 young heroes in Jianghu. Although he was not the chief, his strength was obvious to all. Li Fan, on the other hand, appeared out of nowhere. No one knew his strength. They only knew that he was the fiancé of the chief of the Wulin League. However, the chief of the Wulin League, Murong Ing, used the Murong sword to conquer the world. If Li Fan's swordsmanship was outstanding, everyone could comfort themselves. However, he did not use a sword. Instead, he was good at fighting and could even use other people's moves. That was why they felt strange. What was the strength of this Li Fan? "Please enlighten me," Qin Junhua said, holding his Mount Hua heavy sword. The true qi in his body surged, as if he had used all his strength. His swordsmanship was good at defense. Li Fan did not hold back. Since he was defending, he would attack. Li Fan carried the goose feather saber. His body moved in the air and instantly fell toward Qin Junhua. At the same time, he waved the goose feather saber and slashed at Qin Junhua. Qin Junhua swept his heavy sword and cut Li Fan into 2. Li Fan's body appeared under Qin Junhua again, and he raised the long saber in his hand. Qin Junhua's face did not look good. He could only hurriedly lower his heavy sword, trying to block Li Fan's saber. Clang! Li Fan's saber hit the edge of Qin Junhua's sword, and golden sparks appeared. His figure slowly turned into a virtual light. Obviously, it was an afterimage. However, the saber chi was real and attacked Qin Junhua's sword. Li Fan had already appeared behind Qin Junhua, and the long saber in his hand was pressed on Qin Junhua's neck. "I told you, the 5 tigers cracking the gate blade technique is quite useful after some modification," Li Fan said. Everyone was shocked. Li Fan's move was absolutely shocking. Ku Chuanza had failed to defeat Qin Junhua with the 5 tigers gate-breaking saber technique. But in the hands of a layman like Li Fan, Qin Junhua was suppressed to the point where he couldn't even lift his head. "Young hero Hua, you don't want to lose here, do you?" Li Fan retrieved the goose feather saber, and at the same time, swung it, and the goose feather saber fell back onto the weapon rack. "Bring out your full strength and fight me. I know you're holding back." Hearing this, Ku Chuanza's expression turned ugly. So when Qin Junhua fought with him, he actually didn't use his full strength? This caused Ku Chuanza's pride to crumble. No matter what, he was an expert of the 5 Tigers sect. He had always thought that he was on par with Qin Junhua. It turned out that Qin Junhua had been going easy on him. Infuriating. Ku Chuanza felt that his self-esteem had been severely damaged. Qin Junhua looked at Li Fan a few more times, as if he was surprised that Li Fan could see through his strength. "Fine." Qin Junhua stabbed his heavy sword into the challenge ring, and then slammed it on an unknown spot. Kacha! With a loud sound, the huge sword split in half, revealing a white, slender treasured sword. Li Fan suddenly realized that this heavy, edgeless huge sword was just the hilt of the treasured sword inside. Qin Junhua had fought so many battles, but he hadn't even unsheathed his treasured sword. Ku Chuanza was also filled with grief and indignation. He hadn't expected Qin Junhua to hold back. "That's more like it." Li Fan spread his hands apart and actually got into the starting position of the 8 trigrams palm. The 8 trigrams saber. Li Fan actually wanted to use this hand saber to compete with Chen Junhua's Huashan sword technique. This kid, just how many martial arts does he know? Yin Wuchao couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. This Li Fan was just a teenager, and he was only 18 or 19 years old, but he was proficient in all kinds of martial arts. How was this possible? Yin Wuchao didn't understand. When Li Fan activated the ape-faced Buddha, he could comprehend the laws and Taos of each martial art. After comprehending the Taoist heart, one would naturally be more proficient in martial arts than ordinary people. It's actually my 8 trigrams palm. Tang Wei was sitting below the stage. Although he was a little more clear-headed, he was also stunned when he saw Li Fan using the 8 trigrams palm. This Li Fan was too arrogant. Did he really think that he was proficient in all kinds of martial arts? This damn thing. I really hope I can teach him a good lesson. But Tang Wei was just thinking about it. When he really stepped into the arena and saw Li Fan again, his legs would turn to jelly. Come on, young Hiro-chan. Li Fan's face was solemn, and he didn't seem to be joking at all. Chen Junhua had also fought with Li Fan before, and he knew his strength. He had no choice but to be cautious. The female fans below the stage were shouting his name crazily, and some were even shouting that they wanted to give birth to monkeys for him. But this wasn't what Chen Junhua needed. He only wanted to practice martial arts and become the sword sage of this generation. The title of sword sage wasn't something that just anyone could obtain. Only after reaching a certain level in sword Dao could one obtain such a title. But in the current pugilistic world, there were only a few people who had the title of sword sage. They were all grandmasters of their generation, and they were either hiding in sects or hiding in the mountains. The only sword sage who had reached the pinnacle was the alliance leader of the pugilistic world, Murong Ying. Before she became the alliance leader of the pugilistic world, her nickname was the Cherry Blossom Sword Sage. In order to become the next sword sage, Chen Junhua had been working hard. Murong Ying was the same age as him. If she could become a sword sage, why couldn't he? This sword is called Heaven Ascension. Chen Junhua raised the shining sword and pointed it at Li Fan. Please enlighten me. As he said that, his body suddenly jumped up and landed in the air. Then he stabbed down at Li Fan with the sword tip. After throwing away the heavy scabbard, Chen Junhua's sword technique became much more free and easy. Li Fan's true energy suddenly poured into his right hand. Although it was called the 8 trigram palm, this move was actually more like Li Fan's dragon-crushing hand from the snake strike technique. The true energy completely poured into Li Fan's palm and then gathered on the tip of his finger. Then, according to the method of the 8 trigram palm, he stabbed forward. Clang! The tip of Li Fan's finger collided with the tip of Chen Junhua's sword, producing a clang sound. Li Fan's hand was unscathed, and Chen Junhua's sword bent. He used the force of the sword to jump up again. Then he spun his body and stabbed down towards Li Fan again. The sword chi brought about by the tip of the sword started to spin. The blade of the sword was sharp, as if it wanted to strangle Li Fan to death. This Chen Junhua truly treated Li Fan as a powerful opponent. At the same time, he did not look down on Li Fan's 8 trigram palm. This was because Li Fan's 8 trigram palm was the same as the orthodox 8 trigram palm. It was more powerful when it came to circling around the opponent. Li Fan frowned slightly. Looking at Chen Junhua's sword, it seemed that it was really troublesome. Chapter 383. If Chen Junhua had only used 8 trigram palm, it would have been difficult to block this thrust. Although Chen Junhua didn't say anything on the surface, he was probably very unconvinced in his heart. He was forcing Li Fan to use his original move. All right. Li Fan became serious. Since the other party had shown his true strength, he should not hide it anymore. He suddenly roared and infused his body with true chi. Then, he slapped Chen Junhua's blade with both hands. Catching the blade empty-handed. To outsiders, Li Fan looked like he did not want to live anymore. He actually received such a terrifying sword aura with his bare hands. However, Li Fan was confident. With a slap of his hands, it was as though a huge bell had been rung, causing the treasured sword to buzz. There were some bloodstains on his arms. Obviously, he was injured by Chen Junhua's sword aura. However, under the protection of his true chi, his arms were left intact. At the same time, Qin Junhua's treasured sword was also hit by Li Fan. A wave of true chi flowed along Qin Junhua's blade like a ripple. It continuously spread upwards and soon reached Qin Junhua's hands. Qin Junhua's perlicue split open, but he shook his treasured sword. At the same time, the sword aura shook Li Fan's hands away and forced Li Fan to take 2 steps back. He turned around in the air, and the edge of his sword drew a half-moon as he chased after Li Fan. No wonder he was an outstanding disciple of Huashan. Li Fan could not help but admire Qin Junhua's swordsmanship. Flexible and versatile, using offense as defense. Li Fan did not dare to delay. He used lawful embodiment of heaven and earth to imitate Murong Ying's move. Li Fan stretched out 2 fingers and flicked the edge of the sword. Clang. The sound of 2 treasured swords colliding could be heard. Qin Junhua's treasured sword was repelled. His body flipped a few times in the air before landing on the edge of the arena to stabilize his body. As for Li Fan, he also took 2 steps back. His fingers were slightly trembling and there was still true chi rippling on them. For the first time, Yin Wuchao could not sit still and stood up. Murong's swordsmanship. This was Murong Ying's swordsmanship. As a sword saint, Murong Ying could use her finger as a sword. He didn't expect that this kid had learned his fiancée's martial arts. Furthermore, his mastery of the technique wasn't bad at all. However, the only flaw was that when Li Fan used Murong's swordsmanship, it was less nimble and more domineering. Li Fan used his sword finger to force Qin Junhua back, but he was also feeling regretful in his heart. Even though the lawful embodiment of heaven and earth could not imitate Murong Ying's cherry blossom sword chi, it would be great if it could even imitate the materialization of the void. Its big sister's finger sword. Murong AI also clapped her little hands in the audience. Brother-in-law is so awesome, he even learned this move. If that's the case, that kid from Huashan will have to admit defeat. She underestimated Qin Junhua's determination. Qin Junhua steadied his footsteps and raised his sword again. He pointed it at Li Fan, his eyes becoming more determined. Li Fan used Murong Ying's swordsmanship, which made him feel excited for the first time. This was the swordsmanship of the martial arts alliance leader. It was also the swordsmanship of a sword saint. He might not be able to defeat Murong Ying, but how could he not be able to defeat her fiancé? Qin Junhua adjusted his breathing and leaped up again. With his sword in hand, he attacked Li Fan again in midair. Li Fan stretched out both his hands and used his finger sword to block Qin Junhua's attacks again and again. No matter how hard Qin Junhua tried, he was unable to break through Li Fan's defense. Compared to his previous duel with Kuchuenza, it was as if the roles were reversed. This time, the one who was busy attacking was the youth from Huashan. Li Fan was not impatient as he blocked Qin Junhua's attacks again and again. Suddenly, an opening appeared in Qin Junhua's orderly attacks, and Li Fan caught it. He flicked 2 of his fingers and sent Qin Junhua's sword flying, leaving him wide open. Father Bear Pile Driver. Li Fan's other hand grabbed Qin Junhua's collar and forcefully pulled him down from the air, smashing him in front of him. Bang! The ground trembled and a pit appeared in the arena. Qin Junhua was lying in it. His head had hit the ground earlier and he was still feeling dizzy. Li Fan had already shown mercy. Otherwise, if he used Father Bear Pile Driver continuously, Qin Junhua would be seriously injured even if he did not die. It was just a duel, so there was no need for Li Fan to kill him. Qin Junhua regained his consciousness and wanted to get up, but Li Fan had already stretched out his leg and placed it on his chest. As long as Li Fan exerted force, Qin Junhua's heart would suffer a heavy blow. You have already lost. Li Fan reminded Qin Junhua. Qin Junhua thought for a moment and stretched out his hands. He cupped his fists at Li Fan and admitted defeat without hesitation. Qin Junhua's fans were very sad, but they also felt a little fortunate. Fortunately, Qin Junhua had lost. If he had won, wouldn't he be marrying the daughter of the Golden Eagle Castle? Yin Wuchao also seemed to be on the verge of losing. His greatest support, Qin Junhua, had lost. Of the remaining 2 people, one was unknown to him, and the other was Li Fan's brother. If he went easy on him, Li Fan's chances of winning would be very high. "Alright, who's next?" Li Fan asked. In fact, he had never used his full strength in every duel. He had always suppressed his strength to the same level as his opponent. Otherwise, it would be meaningless to use his inner force to suppress his opponent. "Benefactor, let's me." As Guan Wenbao spoke, he took a step and soared into the air, landing in front of Li Fan. He waved the crescent blade in his hand, stirring up a gust of wind. "Benefactor, I'll use all my strength to fight you." Guan Wenbao was a very rigid person. He was very serious in every battle. Li Fan had never thought of asking him to go easy. This was an exhibition match, and he could use this opportunity to show the true style of phenomenal. Yin Wuchao's brows relaxed. Since this Guan Wenbao was going to go all out, there shouldn't be a problem. His strength seemed to be pretty good. After all, he was the descendant of a prestigious family. He was righteous and wouldn't go easy on him. "Remove all the weights on your body," Li Fan reminded. "You weren't riding Lisa. You've already lost a trump card when you're fighting off a horse." "You're right, Benefactor." As Guan Wenbao spoke, he removed his wrist guards, leg guards, and waist protector. These things were thrown to the ground, cracking the floor. The audience was dumbfounded. It turned out that this young man from the Guan clan had been carrying these things in his battles all the time. These things added up to more than 100 kilograms. Did he have to be so fierce? "I haven't fought with you for a long time. The last time was on Su Chen's ship. That time, Guan Wenbao was forced to fight by Lu Xinan. Both of them didn't have a good time. But this time, both of them could fight to their heart's content." Li Fan got into a fighting stance and looked at Guan Wenbao cautiously. He had never underestimated old Guan's strength. He had also suppressed his strength to the advanced level. He was on the same starting line as Guan Wenbao, so they were competing to see whose martial arts was better. Chapter 384. Benefactor, take my saber. As Guan Wenbao spoke, he suddenly took a step forward. At the same time, the crescent moon saber in his hand slashed towards Li Fan's head. Guan Wenbao's saber technique was very heavy. If Li Fan only used his sword fingers, he wouldn't be able to block it completely. However, Li Fan didn't intend to continue using Murong's sword technique. Before Guan Wenbao's saber landed, Li Fan suddenly leaped up. His body jumped more than 5 meters in the air. At the same time, he stretched out his hand and a long sword on the weapon rack flew over and landed in his palm. Everyone stared at him. Even Yin Wuchao was a little nervous. This kid wouldn't be using what he learned on the spot again, right? Indeed, Li Fan's body was in the air when he suddenly landed. His long sword stabbed towards Guan Wenbao's head. This sword was very powerful, as though it had pierced through the air. Guan Wenbao immediately raised his crescent moon saber and swept it violently, trying to block Li Fan's blade. However, Li Fan's blade pressed against Guan Wenbao's saber. His body bounced up lightly and stabbed down again. Guan Wenbao swung his crescent moon saber. Relying on his great strength and wide blade, he repelled Li Fan again. However, Li Fan did not panic. He pressed down on the blade and bounced into the air again. This time, when Li Fan landed, the long sword trembled and turned into 5 sword shadows that stabbed towards Guan Wenbao together. Learning, deepening. This was the strength of the lawful embodiment of heaven and earth. Li Fan's one sword turned into 5 swords. Guan Wenbao couldn't block it with his saber. However, he fell to the ground like an iron plank bridge. At the same time, he stomped on the ground and slid back 3 to 4 meters, dodging Li Fan's long sword. Bang, bang, bang. 5 sword marks were left on the ground, all left by Li Fan. Li Fan's sword technique was shocking. Chen Junhua had never used this move in front of outsiders. Li Fan must have just learned it. How could there be such a genius? He could learn someone else's moves after just seeing it, and he could even draw inferences about other things? This was a little too perverted. Chen Junhua was the same. He even forgot to blink as he looked at Li Fan in shock. He had improved his swordplay. Li Fan propped his sword on the ground and caught up to Guan Wenbao. At the same time, he kept swinging his sword, but Guan Wenbao, who was retreating and fighting at the same time, blocked them with his crescent blade. Needless to say, Guan Wenbao's arm strength was really amazing. Such a heavy crescent blade was like nothing in his hands. The speed at which Guan Wenbao swung his crescent blade was actually faster and more relaxed than Li Fan. Mad Dragon goes to sea. This descendant of the Guan family suddenly stopped in his tracks and stood up. Then he swung his crescent blade at Li Fan, stirring up a scarlet flame. This was Guan Wenbao's ultimate move. He could use it effortlessly. Li Fan's body flipped in the air, the sword in his hand constantly flicking against Guan Wenbao's crescent blade, using it to dodge Guan Wenbao's ultimate move. He was more agile in the air than Chen Junhua. After Li Fan dodged Guan Wenbao's move, his body suddenly spun, bringing along sword qi, and fell towards Guan Wenbao. This was also the ultimate move that Chen Junhua had used before, and it was powerful. Now that Li Fan used it, it was like a tornado descending from the sky. Even Guan Wenbao was a little moved. However, old Guan had been through hundreds of battles and had always paid attention to his training. Facing Li Fan, who was descending from the sky, he swung his saber and used a move that could split Mount Hua. Genesis Splitter. The saber blade carried a huge force, as if it could split the world in half. The sword qi on Li Fan's body was directly cut into two by Guan Wenbao's saber. At the same time, the saber slashed at Li Fan's body, forcing Li Fan to put away his sword and block in front of him. Bam! Li Fan's body was sent flying by Guan Wenbao's slash. He flew to the edge of the arena and dropped to the ground, his feet leaving 2 footprints on the ground. The sword in his hand was broken into 2 with a clang. Guan Wenbao's saber energy had shattered Li Fan's sword. Amazing! Li Fan could not help but praise, "Old Guan, your Yenue saber is getting more and more powerful. After all, if I don't work hard, I will be left further and further behind by my benefactor." Guan Wenbao explained, "Please show me your true strength and fight with me, benefactor. I will fight you with my 7 gallant fists." Li Fan could not use his true strength. After all, if he used all his strength, the battle would end quickly. "Thank you, benefactor." Guan Wenbao was finally happy. To him, Li Fan's 7 gallant fists was the true strength. "Old Guan, pay attention." As Li Fan spoke, he stretched out his hands and placed them in front of him. At the same time, he raised his right leg, which had a faint electric glow. Lightning deer. This was the stance Li Fan had prepared for Guan Wenbao. At this moment, he exuded a sage-like aura. The corners of Li Fan's clothes fluttered in the wind. He stood there like a golden rooster, motionless like a statue. However, it was this Li Fan that gave Guan Wenbao a great deal of pressure. Guan Wenbao took a deep breath and tried to calm himself down. The sound of his heartbeat was especially loud. It was like the tolling of a bell, constantly ringing in Guan Wenbao's ears. He and Li Fan stood there for 10 minutes. The two of them did nothing but stared at each other in silence. The surrounding people were getting a little impatient. However, they all understood that this was a crucial moment. Whoever made the first move would reveal a flaw. As for Guan Wenbao, he finally couldn't hold it in any longer. He raised his huge crescent blade and pounced at Li Fan. The blade slashed ruthlessly at Li Fan's head, bringing with it an intense saber aura. If it struck Li Fan would probably be cut into 2. However, Li Fan suddenly stretched out his hands and blocked the crescent blade's shaft. At the same time, he kicked backward. Rushing thunder kick. Li Fan's kick landed on Guan Wenbao's shoulder. Guan Wenbao was kicked backward, and his shoulder exploded with a burst of electric glow. He felt his body go a little numb. Clearly, Li Fan's attack had paralyzed him. Although Li Fan's electric glow wasn't as strong as true voltage, it could paralyze others and play a certain controlling role. However, Guan Wenbao's body was strong, so he quickly recovered. He waved his crescent blade again, bringing with it a strong airflow. It swept across Li Fan's body in an attempt to make Li Fan lose his balance. However, Li Fan was still in a golden rooster stance. His body was as motionless as a mountain, as if the airflow couldn't affect Li Fan at all. "Benefactor, I'm going all out." As Guan Wenbao spoke, his body erupted with intense true qi. Every step he took left a deep footprint on the ground. True Genesis splitter. Guan Wenbao raised his crescent blade. The blade's body was covered in red flames. Chapter 385. The flames on the blade burned and twisted, and even the surrounding scenery was twisted along with it. The temperature of the flames seemed to have reached a certain level. Guan Wenbao also took out his full strength. His innate qi and the saber aura fused into one, and the intense friction between the saber and the air released the scarlet flames. The surrounding people were a little surprised, and Yin Wuchao also muttered in his heart. The descendant of the Guan family was really powerful. A martial artist could create flames with just a blade. How long did he train to reach such a proficient level? The flames twisted the air, and at that moment, a huge phantom of a god of war seemed to appear behind Guan Wenbao. Li Fan thought that he saw an illusion because of the steam. However, that immense pressure was real. Li Fan tore off his coat and roared. His body suddenly swelled, and in the blink of an eye, he grew into a 2-meter-tall giant. The muscles on his body also bulged. Abnormal bone transformation. Yin Wuchao stood up again and clenched his fists. This is too unfair. As the martial arts alliance master, Murong Ying already had the talent to turn illusions into reality. And her fiancé actually knew a powerful technique like the aberration bone-changing technique. No wonder Murong Ying would like this kid. This abnormal bone transformation was the extreme physical body that a martial artist of combat pursued. Army. And Li Fan no longer cared about Yin Wuchao's surprise. At this critical moment, he did not retreat, but instead advanced. Clang. Guan Wenbao's blade knocked on Li Fan's shoulder, but he used his palm to stabilize it. And the blazing flames instantly spread to Li Fan, burning his body. Li Fan's true qi instantly covered his body, blocking the air and isolating the flames. But he also maintained a state of suffocation, but it only needed a little time. Li Fan tilted his body and carried the crescent blade on his shoulders. Then he suddenly lifted it up. Guan Wenbao's body was lifted up by Li Fan and sent into the air. "Oh Guan, I'm sorry. You don't have a warhorse. You're still lacking." As Li Fan spoke, he turned his body and directly threw Guan Wenbao out. Guan Wenbao was in the air, trying to stab his crescent blade into the ground to stabilize his body. However, Li Fan took a step forward and quickly deactivated the bear rider state. He roared, and a huge wave of qi engulfed Guan Wenbao. Fierce tiger roaring in the forest. Li Fan's roar sent Guan Wenbao flying. He flipped a few times in the air and finally landed on the ground below the arena. Without a doubt, he had been thrown off the stage and lost. Guan Wenbao put down his crescent blade and cupped his hands towards Li Fan. "Benefactor's martial arts are superior. I wholeheartedly accept my loss." It seems that there is only one person left. Li Fan looked at the last person wearing a hood. In the battle between the 5 of them, 3 young talents have already been eliminated. This time, without waiting for his disciple to speak, Yin Wuchao actually stood up and said loudly, "As long as young hero Li Fan can defeat the last person, you can become the arena master and accept the final test." Li Fan can't help but sneer in his heart. The final test is really interesting. There was no mention of a final test in the previous competition. It seems that Yin Wuchao does not want me to become the arena master. However, I will definitely become the arena master today. Next, let us invite the last contestant, young hero Lu Zhu. Compared to Li Fan, Lu Zhu is even less famous. In the pugilistic world, no one has ever heard of such a person. But he actually won and entered the finals, standing in front of Li Fan. This young hero Lu is still wearing a black robe with a hood on his head. But the appearance that is revealed is quite decent. However, the beard above his lips is a bit thick. Li Fan feels that this person has a bunch of hair growing on his chin. Probably because he secretes too much male hormones. He is so young, yet he has such a big beard. He is too mature. "You are quite powerful." Although the beard is big, the other party's voice is indeed somewhat immature. He stretches out a hand and points at Li Fan's face. "But you are not this young master's opponent. May I know which sect sire is from?" Li Fan is somewhat curious about the other party's identity. "Why do you care?" Meddlesome. Lu Zhu coldly snorts. This young master can choose whichever sect I want. Could it be that people who are not from a sect cannot participate in this groom search competition? Also, where is that Yin family's young lady? Quickly bring her out for this young master to see. He changes from his previous silence to an exaggerated look. He even looks at the house behind Yin Wuchao. It seems that before the arena master is decided, Miss Yin has been staying there waiting for the final result. My apologies, before the arena master is chosen, our family's young lady will not come out for the time being. Yin Wuchao slowly says, this young hero Lu, whether or not you can marry our family's young lady will depend on your ability. Rest assured, this Miss Yin will definitely belong to this young master. Lu Zhu laughs as if he is very confident. It seems like Sire really likes Miss Yin. Li Fan looks at Lu Zhu in front of him. Have you seen Miss Yin before? Who cares what she looks like? She should not be too bad. Lu Zhu waves his hand and takes out a whip from his sleeve. Since she is going to be my wife, I'll teach her a lesson. Yin Wuchao is not angry. Instead, he smiles and says, then young hero Lu will have to work hard. Then this young master is going to start. Lu Zhu says as he suddenly lashes out his whip towards Li Fan's cheek. This guy is really vicious, wanting to disfigure me. Li Fan stretches out his hand and grabs the whip. Friend, why are you so ruthless? Friendship comes first, competition comes second. In this kind of place, what friendship is there to talk about? Lu Zhu snorts as his hand trembles. A powerful qi erupts from the whip as if it exploded, bouncing off Li Fan's hand and forcing him to take 2 steps back. Li Fan is a little surprised. This person's qi has a very strong explosive nature, like a real bomb. Sire's qi attribute is really strange. Li Fan can't help but exclaim. What will surprise you is yet to come. This time, the arena master is this young master. With that, the whip in Lu Zhu's hand is like a snake, circling around Li Fan as if he is waiting for an opportunity to bite him. Good whip technique. Li Fan praises. After all, this whip has made him really vigilant. This Lu Zhu wasn't simple either. Chapter 386. No one knew the origin of this Lu Zhu, but his kung fu was real. This whip was like a real venomous snake, waiting for an opportunity to strike. Li Fan was not in a hurry to make a move. While he was defending, he was observing the opponent's attack. As the saying goes, know yourself and know your enemy, and you will never be defeated. Before understanding the opponent's kung fu, Li Fan could not rashly make a move. In the previous fights, he had also observed this Lu Zhu. Most of the time he defeated his opponent with a whip. Every time he showed his strength, it was just slightly higher than the others, so it did not attract much attention. Looking at his skillful whip technique, Li Fan could not help but sigh. Sure enough, Jiang Hu is big, there are experts everywhere. There is always someone better, the ancients did not deceive me. Li Fan was thinking at the same time, he was paying attention to Lu Zhu's every move. What surprised Li Fan the most was Lu Zhu's explosive true qi. He did not know how he used his true qi, but it was like gunpowder. Making true qi explode, this was a very new topic. Every time Lu Zhu's whip made an explosive sound in the air, there would be people in the audience exclaiming. But even so, Lu Zhu still could not hit Li Fan. Li Fan seemed to have eyes on the back of his head. No matter where Lu Zhu's whip came from, he was able to dodge it in the first moment. And when Li Fan found a gap in Lu Zhu's defense, he suddenly turned into a shadow and instantly appeared in front of Lu Zhu. This time, Li Fan's palm was aimed at Lu Zhu's shoulder. After observing for a long time, he felt that Lu Zhu's strength seemed to be at this level. It was not outstanding. But at this time, Lu Zhu's 3 fingers were like eagle claws, grabbing toward Li Fan's throat. Li Fan was shocked. This was not an ordinary kung fu. That claw was like a ghost suddenly grabbing out of nowhere. It was impossible to guard against. This was definitely a move that Lu Zhu had planned from the start. What a ruthless attack. It did not look like a move that a disciple of an upright sect would use. The 8 trigrams palm was vicious enough, but this move was 100 times more vicious. This claw was aimed at Li Fan's throat. It looked like it was about to tear Li Fan's throat apart. However, Li Fan opened his mouth and bit the other party's hand. Ah! Lu Zhu cried out in alarm. The true qi in her hand burst forth. She struggled free from Li Fan's mouth, and then glared at Li Fan. You are so disgusting. You want to crush my throat, but you won't let me bite you? Li Fan coldly snorted. At such a young age, why do you have to be so ruthless? TSK, isn't it just a human life? If it's gone, then it's gone. What's the big deal? Lu Zhu's reply made Li Fan jump in fright. Does this man not have any humanity? Which sect did he come from? What kind of education did he receive? However, to be able to escape from this young master's nether claw, consider yourself lucky. Netherworld claw? That's appropriate. However, this was the first time he heard of this kung fu. Li Fan could not help but be serious. Whip technique as a supplement. It seems like this netherworld claw is your real kung fu. Li Fan saw through Lu Zhu's actual strength. Humph, this young master still knows a lot of kung fu. Not less than you. Lu Zhu said and suddenly kicked 3 times toward Li Fan. Li Fan used crane hand to push away the other's feet and finally grabbed the other's ankle. Bastard! Let go of this young master's foot. 72 Tan Tue? Li Fan looked at Lu Zhu in surprise. You actually know this kung fu? Quickly get lost. Lu Zhu scolded, then backhanded Li Fan with a ba gua zhong, stabbing at his armpit. Li Fan pushed Lu Zhu away. He was even more surprised. This Lu Zhu actually learned a bunch of kung fu. Although he knew a little about Tan Tue and 8 trigrams palm, he was not proficient in them. Although I dabbled in a lot of kung fu, it's a pity that it's all superficial. Li Fan commented truthfully, angering Lu Zhu to the point of choking. Bullshit. This young master dabbles in hundreds of kung fu. My kung fu is very powerful. Don't think that just because you're proficient in other kung fu, you can look down on others. Without waiting for Li Fan to react, Lu Zhu threw out 2 darts. The darts spun and went straight for Li Fan's eyes. If it hit Li Fan's eyes, Li Fan would not be able to keep his eyes. What surprised Li Fan the most was not the power of the darts, but the hidden weapon technique. It's obviously Tang sect kung fu. Good fellow, he really dabbled in hundreds of kung fu. But his technique was a bit bad. Li Fan didn't even use the great sage star picking art. He simply grabbed the 2 darts in his hand. You need to learn more. You can't just learn a bit and then throw it to the side. Li Fan could not help but want to scold him. Practicing kung fu must be refined. Otherwise, what's the point of learning? How old are you, and you're already lecturing me? Lu Zhu was not happy. He threw out 2 darts. Li Fan was about to catch them, but the 2 darts suddenly exploded, splitting into dozens of small flying needles. Densely packed, they enveloped Li Fan. Li Fan did not hesitate. He had already put on his jacket. Seeing the rain of needles, he directly swung his sleeve and put the rain of needles into his sleeve. This move was also created by Li Fan after he fought with Yen Xiao, the disciple of the Tang sect. Tang sect's hidden weapon kung fu was indeed annoying. Although he could block Yen Xiao's attack, Li Fan believed that one day, he would meet a hidden weapon expert that he could not block. At that time, he would need to use another method to defend. And this move, he called it Iron Sleeve, specially used to deal with hidden weapons. The purpose of practicing kung fu was to continuously improve. If he did not improve, he would be eliminated by other martial artists. Not to mention others, Guan Wenbao was chasing after him very closely. If Yushi hadn't instilled more true qi into him last time, he might have really lost to him. Seeing Li Fan easily put away his rain of needles, Lu Zhu was somewhat shocked. What kind of kung fu is this? Of course it's the kung fu I used to beat you. Li Fan had already lost his patience. Although this guy knew a lot of things, he was really not good at anything. Li Fan swung his sleeve. This sleeve slapped Lu Zhu's body, directly throwing him more than 5 meters away. The other side's body flipped, and very reluctantly landed, stabilizing his feet. What kind of kung fu is this? Teach me. Lu Zhu seemed to be very interested in this iron sleeve. This won't do. Li Fan refused Lu Zhu's request. This is my self-created kung fu, how can I casually teach it to others? If you want to learn, wait until I open a dojo in the future, then worship under my tutelage. In your dreams, Lu Zhu coldly snorted, I'll give you one last chance. If you don't teach this young master, you're dead. Chapter 387. Lu Zhu's barbaric look makes Li Fan want to laugh. I don't owe you anything. Besides, how are you going to kill me? Why don't you kill me for me to see? Li Fan's words are very harsh to Lu Zhu's ears. Good. You are forcing this young master to do this. Little stutterer, if you have any ability, just use it. Li Fan hooked his finger at him. Lu Zhu's hand suddenly reached under his clothes and pulled out a golden dragon head-shaped object from under his clothes. This object is like a handgun that is held in Lu Zhu's hand. Li Fan lightly frowns. He has a vague feeling that something is wrong. Dragon head gun. Yin Wuchao can no longer sit still and directly stands up. Why is this thing in Lu Zhu's hand? Some of the martial artists below are also somewhat surprised. At the same time, a greedy look flashes in their eyes. What is a dragon head gun? This is a weapon in the martial arts world. It is a protective treasure created by a genius of Tang sect. It is said that this thing is known as Tang sect's submachine gun. Its power is astonishing. At this moment, Lu Zhu is holding the dragon head gun. With a pull of his left hand, the dragon mouth immediately opens, revealing 10 black bullet holes. They are aimed at Li Fan. Go to hell. Lu Zhu presses a mechanism. The 10 bullet holes turn together and 10 flying needles shoot out. These flying needles fly in front of Li Fan. Each of them split into 10, a total of 100 flying needles. These flying needles cover Li Fan's face. This is not the end. Lu Zhu presses the mechanism again and again. More flying needles shoot out. Every time there are more than 100 flying needles. They are even more terrifying than bullets. Such a dense rain of needles can only be shot by a hidden weapon expert who has reached great heights. But Li Fan does not care. He just stands there and continuously swings his sleeves to keep the rain of needles into his sleeves. Actually, the principle is very simple. Li Fan infuses his true qi into his sleeves, making his sleeves like iron. This is only half of it. As for the other half, he used his true qi to form a small black hole at the cuff of his sleeve. Everything around him would be sucked in. This was a skill that Li Fan could only perform when he maintained the state of Toad Strike. However, his performance was not obvious, lest it was too shocking. After all, the sky-swallowing toad was Li Fan's trump card. He wouldn't use it unless he had no other choice. Once he used it, he had to kill his opponent. Lu Zhu kept releasing flying needles, but to no avail. Li Fan kept all of them in his sleeves. Damn it! Lu Zhu was infuriated. Just what was the other party doing with his sleeves? He was actually able to collect all the flying needles. In the martial arts world, there had never been such a kung fu. This was the Dragon Head Blaster. The protector had said that no matter who the opponent was, as long as they took out this thing and launched a sudden attack, they would definitely be killed. Each of the flying needles was dipped in poison. Even if the needles were not fatal, the poison would be fatal. However, none of the poisonous needles could hit Li Fan. What was the use of this? With such a dense number of poisonous needles, how could anyone defend against it so easily? Very quickly, the Dragon Head Blaster in Lu Zhu's hands shot out all the flying needles. This time, it was a little awkward. Lu Zhu pulled the trigger a few more times. Not a single flying needle could be shot out. Damn it! Lu Zhu attacked for a long time without success. He looked like he wanted to give up, but he was very unwilling. You must teach this kung fu to this young master. I already said it's impossible, little stutterer. Don't call this young master a little stutterer. Lu Zhu was about to go crazy. You're dead. I'm telling you, you're really dead. Sorry, I don't have time to play anymore. It's time to eliminate you. Li Fan saw that it was getting late. If he continued to dawdle, it would not be beneficial to his plan. As Li Fan spoke, he stretched out his hand and snapped his fingers. Lu Zhu's vision blurred. Li Fan's figure disappeared just like that. Not only did he disappear from his sight, Li Fan even disappeared from everyone's sight. Even Yin Wuchao himself was a little surprised. How did Li Fan suddenly disappear? What kind of demonic technique did he use that even I couldn't keep up with him? This kid is a little powerful. Lu Zhu was even more unable to find Li Fan. At this time, Li Fan had already appeared behind him without anyone noticing. A hand knife landed on the back of his neck. But Lu Zhu did not hesitate and fainted in an instant. This way, Li Fan eliminated everyone, leaving only him. For Master Yin, I'm sorry. I'm untalented and have become the final champion. Li Fan cupped his hands and said to Yin Wuchao. The people below the stage sighed. No one expected that the person who became the final champion would be him. Little Overlord Li Fan, this name really lived up to its name. However, he already had a fiancée, and she was the martial arts alliance master. How could he play? Polygamy? Would Murong Ing agree to it? Would Murong Villa's people agree to it? Not bad. Heroes indeed come from the youth. Yin Wuchao looked very calm. Next up is the final test. As long as you can receive 3 moves from this old man, you can become the son-in-law of the Golden Eagle Castle. Fort Master Yin, you are an expert who has been famous for many years. It's not good to bully a junior like me, right? Li Fan also changed his previous martial arts fanatic appearance and started to act weak. Although my daughter is untalented, she is still this old man's flesh and blood. Yin Wuchao said with a chuckle, if she wants to get married, then let this old man test her. Otherwise, this old man will not feel at ease marrying her off. No one could refute his words. Li Fan nodded, of course you can. But according to the rules, at least let this son-in-law meet Miss Yin first. Since Li Fan started to call himself son-in-law, Yin Wuchao clapped his hands, of course. Men invite Miss Yin out. 2 maids from the Golden Eagle Castle opened the door at the back and invited the young miss of the Yin clan out. It was as if they were going to hold a wedding on the spot. This Miss Yin was already wearing a phoenix coronet and a red veil on her head. He couldn't tell if this Miss Yin was beautiful or ugly, but now that his target has appeared, the rest was easy. Li Fan looked around and saw that the Golden Eagle Castle's guards were standing around the stage. Every guard looked fierce and had a saber on their waist and a row of red tasseled darts on their bodies. For Master Yin, this place is too far and I can't see clearly. Can you let me take a closer look at Miss Yin? Li Fan was looking for an opportunity to get close to Miss Yin. Only when he was by her side could he take her away. He had already informed Guan Wenbao and Yen Kai. Today, he would probably cause a huge ruckus in the Golden Eagle Castle. There was a sea of people here and there were martial arts experts everywhere. If he succeeded in his task, Yin Wuchao would probably lose all his face and would hate him to death in the future. Chapter 388. No matter what, the mission takes precedence. Since he had already promised Miss Yin, he had to get this done. Young hero Li, you're too impatient. Yin Wuchao smiled. My daughter is here and can't run away. Why are you so impatient? After seeing Miss, I have the motivation to fight Castle Master Yin. Li Fan continued to fight for the opportunity. Yin Wuchao finally nodded. Since that's the case, then come forward. He didn't pay much attention to it. Yin Wuchao felt that even if Li Fan was powerful, Li Fan was just a monkey in the palm of Buddha. No matter how powerful Li Fan was, could he escape from his palm? Thank you, Castle Master Yin. Li Fan was overjoyed when he heard that. He took large strides and walked to Miss Yin's side. When he got closer, Li Fan smelled the fragrance of Miss Yin's cosmetics. It seemed that Miss Yin had dressed herself up for today's scene. Although you can come and take a look, you can't lift the veil. Yin Wuchao reminded Li Fan, you can only lift it after you enter the bridal chamber. Castle Master Yin, if I take 3 moves from you, will you really agree to me marrying Miss Yin? Li Fan suddenly asked. What's wrong with that? It doesn't matter if an outstanding man has 3 or 4 wives. Yin Wuchao's words were beautiful. As long as your Murong family agrees, why can't this old man? However, my family is considered to be married first. No matter what, I can't be a concubine, right? Li Fan was slightly embarrassed. Yin Wuchao was making things difficult for him. Let Murong Ing be a concubine? Wouldn't she kill him? Even if she agreed, that old dog Murong Bo wouldn't agree. Wouldn't it cause a huge ruckus? Yin Wuchao, that old thing, was indeed a smiling tiger. Although he looked like he could do anything, he was actually forcing him to a dead end. Murong Bo was an old dog, but this guy was an old fox. But it's still too early to talk about this. Young hero Li, you'll have to take 3 of my moves first. I've thought about it. I think I'll pass on these 3 moves. Li Fan suddenly waved his hand, causing Yin Wuchao to be startled. The surrounding people were also startled. What did he mean by that? What? Young hero, are you saying that you want to give up on this joust for a spouse? Yin Wuchao was delighted in his heart. In this way, he could casually decide on a candidate from the remaining 4. No. What I mean is, I won't take these 3 moves. But where is she? I'm going to take her away. As Li Fan spoke, he grabbed Miss Yin's arm. Young hero Li, what do you mean by this? Yin Wuchao frowned deeply, and his tone was a little unfriendly. This old man has been polite to you. Do you think that the Golden Eagle Castle is easy to bully? Castle Lord Yin is too polite. Li Fan laughed. The Golden Eagle Castle is full of experts, and with Castle Lord Yin holding the fort, no one would dare to provoke them. However, Li Fan, as the escort of Fifan Express, have already accepted Miss Yin's escort. I'm going to bail her out of the Golden Eagle Castle. So, whether it's a dragon's pool or a tiger's den, I have to make a trip. Li Fan's words shocked everyone present. What a great Fifan Express. They're really bold. Impudent. Yin Wuchao slapped the armrest of his chair, and the chair shattered. He stood up and stared at Li Fan in front of him. Li Fan, this old man respects you, but you've gone too far. This old man wants to see who can bring my daughter out of the Golden Eagle Castle today. As he spoke, the surrounding guards of the Golden Eagle Castle shouted in unison and placed their hands on the hilts of their swords, as if they were going to unsheath them at any time. Guan Wenbao immediately took out his crescent moon blade and waved it, bringing forth a flash of blade light. Yen Kai also took out his Taiji fist stance, and the 2 experts prepared to escort Li Fan. Li Fan, how dare you? Are you trying to barge into my Golden Eagle Castle? Yin Wuchao tried to be polite before resorting to force. Put down my daughter and get your 2 subordinates to put down their weapons, and this old man will still give face to Murong Manor and let you out. Otherwise, don't blame this old man for being merciless. Under this bright moon blade, there will be no survivors. Yin Wuchao placed his hand on his saber, but Li Fan only smiled. Thank you, Castle Lord Yin, for still giving face to my fiancée. Castle Lord Yin is a famous senior in the pugilistic world for many years, and your desert soul-breaking saber is also superb. Back then, when those bad guys in the desert heard of Castle Lord's name, they all trembled in fear. Since you know how powerful this old man is, why don't you surrender now? Yin Wuchao stroked his beard. That may be the case, but the banner of extraordinary delivery is right here. Li Fan pointed at the 2 banners on Guan Wenbao's back. We will definitely protect this escort. This live advertisement is very domineering. If Li Fan can really successfully bring Miss Yin out of the Golden Eagle Castle, then from now on, everyone in the pugilistic world will know the name of extraordinary delivery. There is a path to heaven, but you refuse to take it. There is no door to hell, but you still want to barge into it. Yin Wuchao said angrily, since that's the case, then you can stay here. With that, Yin Wuchao stretched out his hand and grabbed Li Fan's shoulder. But Li Fan did not panic and allowed Yin Wuchao's hand to land on his shoulder. At the same time, a surge of qi burst out from his shoulder and actually pushed Yin Wuchao's hand away and even forced him to take a step back. Good kid. Yin Wuchao's eyes widened. At this moment, the qi that Li Fan has burst out is definitely at the peak of perfection. Yin Wuchao is somewhat angry. This kid, he has actually been hiding his strength all along. Stinking brat. Do you think that you can forcefully take my daughter away just because you have reached the peak of perfection? Yin Wuchao felt like he was being played. He suddenly stretched out his hand and touched the hilt of his bright moon saber. Be careful! Miss Yin's warning sounded in his ear, and Li Fan did not dare to hesitate. He immediately pushed Miss Yin out of the arena and directly landed in front of Guan Wenbao. "Miss Yin, follow me, I will protect you with my life." Guan Wenbao held his crescent moon saber and fought with the surrounding guards of the Golden Eagle Castle. Yan Kai is not idle either. His Taiji fist is the best in a crowded place like this. But Yin Wuchao has already brandished his saber. No one saw his saber technique clearly, they only felt that his right hand disappeared for a moment. Only Li Fan saw it clearly. Yin Wuchao's saber technique is indeed as fast as the wind. His saber drawing technique is so fast that it seems as if it will disappear into the air. If Li Fan does not have bullet time, he might really be injured. In Li Fan's eyes, this saber is quickly chopping towards his waist, as if it wants to take his life. Without hesitation, Li Fan suddenly stretched out his hand, and with the great sage picking stars technique, he used 4 fingers to pinch Yin Wuchao's saber. Chapter 389. Dang! Yin Wuchao's eyes widened. He didn't expect his saber to be caught by Lin Fan. That's impossible. The people watching the show all sucked in a breath of cold air. What kind of background did this Li Fan have? He was actually able to catch Yin Wuchao's swift blade with his bare hands. The desert's soul-breaking saber was many times faster than the 5 Tigers blade technique, but it was caught by Lin Fan's fingers. Castle Lord Yin's saber technique is indeed powerful. It's so fast that I almost couldn't react in time. Li Fan smiled, but Yin Wuchao felt that his smile was a little sarcastic. "Brat, you're not bad to be able to catch my saber." As Yin Wuchao spoke, the bright moon saber suddenly exploded and shook off Li Fan's fingers. "But you're still too young to block me." Yin Wuchao turned around and the saber in his hand disappeared again. This time, Yin Wuchao's saber was even sharper. Li Fan didn't dare to face it head-on. He immediately retreated 2 meters, avoiding the danger of being cut in half. "Brat, where are you running to?" Yin Wuchao slashed at Li Fan. Li Fan used the agile monkey steps and slid a meter to the side. The small wooden house that Miss Yin stayed in was actually split into 2 by Yin Wuchao's saber. Yin Wuchao's saber was indeed powerful to a certain extent. Even Li Fan couldn't completely block it. Moreover, Yin Wuchao had been famous for many years and his internal energy was extremely robust. He was already an expert who had reached great heights many years ago. Now, his internal energy was at least at the level of 7 or 8 dragons. It was indeed difficult for Li Fan to contend against him. But the mission was more important. If he failed this time, Fifan Express's flag would fall completely. He wasn't famous yet, so how could he submit? Li Fan snorted coldly and made up his mind. Yin Wuchao held his saber and looked at Li Fan. "Brat, this is your last chance. Surrender, or die." "Yin Wuchao, Fort Master Yin, I'll accompany you for a few moves today." As Li Fan spoke, his body suddenly began to swell. In the blink of an eye, he turned into a 2-meter-tall man. "Bush, ride, army. 20 years later, you might also become a hero." Yin Wuchao said, "It's a pity that you'll die here today." "That's hard to say." As he spoke, Li Fan took a horse stance and slapped his palm towards Yin Wuchao from afar. Bear King Seal. This palm strike in the air was accompanied by a raging gale. Even Yin Wuchao didn't dare to take it head-on. Instead, he swung his saber down and split the palm wind apart. However, just as he was about to make his next move, Li Fan was already in front of him. Li Fan reached out and grabbed his shoulder. Wild bear hugs tree. Li Fan grabbed Yin Wuchao by the waist and threw him backwards. Yin Wuchao wasn't someone to be trifled with. He used his left hand to support himself on the ground and stabilized his body, blocking Li Fan's attack. At the same time, Yin Wuchao twisted his waist and swung out the bright moon saber in his right hand, trying to chop Li Fan in half. Even so, Yin Wuchao was still able to use his saber. He was simply a freak. However, Li Fan was even more astonishing. His body caught the force of Yin Wuchao pressing down on the ground and forcefully pulled himself up, dodging Yin Wuchao's saber. Bang! The tree behind him was chopped into 2, becoming Li Fan's scapegoat. Li Fan flipped in the air and changed his posture, entering the ape-face Buddha state from the bear rider state. Li Fan's body was in midair as he directly slammed his palm onto the ground. Merciful palm. This palm brought with it a powerful gust of wind, causing Yin Wuchao to kneel on the ground. Yin Wuchao stabbed his saber into the ground to prevent himself from kneeling down. Yin Wuchao was shocked in his heart. This Li Fan was so young, but he had such a powerful internal energy. Especially this palm, it actually carried a kind of Buddhist might. Open for this old man. Yin Wuchao suddenly grabbed his bright moon saber and slashed upwards. The saber energy broke through Li Fan's palm wind and swept towards his body. Although Li Fan's internal energy was powerful, it was still no match for Yin Wuchao's 40 years of cultivation. The palm wind was swept away. The power of the saber energy was also greatly weakened. Li Fan moved his body to the side and dodged the saber energy. He also landed. As he fell, he kept one hand at his waist and the other aimed at Yin Wuchao. Ape King Cannon. Although there was no point of impact in midair, the power of this move would be weakened. However, Li Fan only wanted a quick attack. Bang! Li Fan's palm suddenly slapped down. In a hurry, Yin Wuchao could only exchange a palm with Li Fan. The ground beneath his feet caved in and a pit was created by Yin Wuchao. Yin Wuchao's expression was somewhat ugly, and the surrounding people exclaimed. This was Yin Wuchao, the famous lord of the Golden Eagle Castle. How many people in the pugilistic world could compare to him? However, this Li Fan was actually able to fight on par with him. Li Fan had only roamed the pugilistic world for a few years, and he had relied on his fiancée's reputation. However, his current martial arts were not just for show. To be able to fight on par with Yin Wuchao, it could be considered as shocking. Good kid, your internal energy is deep and your fist technique is shocking. A powerful internal energy erupted from Yin Wuchao's palm and finally pushed Li Fan away. However, this is the end. This old man can't let you live. As he spoke, Yin Wuchao picked up his bright moon saber again and slashed at Li Fan a few times. The sharp saber energy danced in all directions, locking down all of Li Fan's escape routes. At this moment, Li Fan could no longer dodge the saber energy and could only take it head-on. Moreover, Yin Wuchao's saber energy was abnormally sharp. Using his body to take it head-on was probably no different from suicide. As for using his own true chi, it could be seen that Li Fan's true chi was not enough to completely resist the saber energy. Li Fan was very straightforward. His arms shook and his body flew backward. The saber energy chased after his footsteps. However, after Li Fan flew backward for a distance, he directly fell off the stage. The saber energy brushed past Li Fan's scalp and flew out from the top of his head. Yin Wuchao did not think that he would be able to deal with Li Fan with this move. He had already arrived in front of Li Fan in an instant. The bright moon saber in his hand chopped down towards Li Fan's head. The saber energy contained in it was astonishingly terrifying. Without thinking, Li Fan subconsciously entered the heaven-swallowing toad state. At the same time, he stretched out his hands and released 2 streams of true chi to stop Yin Wuchao's saber above his head. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Yin Wuchao's saber let out a buzzing sound, as if it was struggling and angry. As long as it moved down another 10 centimeters, it would be able to cut Li Fan's face. However, Li Fan's true chi was barely able to control the saber. The two of them were in a stalemate. Brat, if you want to kidnap my daughter, then we'll talk about it in your next life. Chapter 390. Yin Wuchao seems to be going all out while Li Fan is struggling to resist. The bright moon saber is getting closer and closer to Li Fan's nose. At this moment, Miss Yin, who was standing below the stage, suddenly lifts her veil and shouts at her father while shaking her head. Enough! Stop it! When Li Fan heard this voice, he instantly feels that it is familiar. When he turns his head, his scalp goes numb. Fuck, isn't this Yin Xiaoru? Fuck, so Yin Xiaoru is Miss Yin? Miss Yin is Yin Xiaoru? Li Fan feels that his brain is unable to process all of this, but everything seems reasonable. This Yin Xiaoru is originally a flying cat that is quick-witted and ever-changing. It is very possible for her to disguise as Miss Yin to bully me. When the surrounding people look, this Yin family's young miss is indeed an outstanding beauty. Father, stop fighting and let us go. Yin Xiaoru begs. Xiaoru, you have no right to speak here. The seemingly easygoing Yin Wuchao is actually very rude and unreasonable at this moment and treats his daughter very strictly. Father, I really don't want to get married. Must you force me? The words of the matchmaker are the orders of the parents. Yin Wuchao is indeed formidable to be able to fight with Li Fan while talking to his daughter freely. Just listen to this old man's words. I'm not your puppet. Yin Xiaoru argues. I decide my own life, I don't need you to decide it for me. Heh, what big words. You've really grown up. Yin Wuchao coldly stares at his daughter. So you found this kid and think that he can protect you out? You're looking down on your father too much. In any case, I will not stay. Let us go. Xiaoru, it seems like you still have delusions about this kid. Yin Wuchao lets out a sneer. Although this kid's martial arts are not bad, compared to this old man, he is still lacking by a few decades. Forget it, I'll cut off your thoughts now. As he spoke, Yin Wuchao suddenly raised his leg and kicked Li Fan's lower abdomen. Li Fan flew out and crashed heavily on the edge of the arena. He spat out a mouthful of blood. It was obvious that his injuries were not light. I'll kill him now so that you won't have any more thoughts and stay here to get married. As Yin Wuchao spoke, he raised his bright moon blade and walked towards Li Fan. Dad, you're crazy. If you kill him, the people of Murong Manor will not let Golden Eagle Castle off. My Golden Eagle Fort has never been afraid of anyone. Yin Wuchao said in a loud voice. Moreover, this brat came to marry you despite his family matters. I'll kill him and get rid of a scourge from Murong Villa. Dream on. Stop. Guan Wenbao and Yan Kai did not dare to delay any longer. Both of them used their qinggong and soared into the sky. One of them held a crescent moon saber while the other pulled out a sword from his waist and attacked Yin Wuchao in the air. Yin Wuchao sneered. You're overestimating yourself. He swung his saber twice and sent both of them flying. At the same time, Yin Wuchao turned his saber around and prepared to stab Li Fan's heart. Dad, don't kill him. At this moment, Yin Xiaoru knelt down in front of Yin Wuchao. Don't kill him. I won't leave. Oh? Yin Wuchao was stunned for a moment before he understood. I didn't expect that you actually have some feelings for this brat. Dad, don't kill him. I'll marry anyone you want. Yin Xiaoru begged bitterly. Yin Wuchao did not make things difficult for her and nodded in agreement. All right, since you're begging, I'll give you face and spare his life. Let's pick an auspicious day and marry into Mount Hua. Yin Wuchao waved his hand as if he had decided Yin Xiaoru's future. Yes. Yin Xiaoru knelt there as tears flowed down her cheeks. Go and bring the young miss back. The guards of Golden Eagle Castle were about to take action when Li Fan roared. Old Guan, Yan Kai, protect Miss Yin. Yes. The two of them got up from the ground and used their qinggong to return to Yin Xiaoru's side. You too? Yin Xiaoru was shocked and wiped her tears. You brat, you really don't want your life anymore. Yin Wuchao raised his bright moon saber and pointed it at Li Fan. A man's words carry enormous weight in this world. Li Fan slowly got up and half knelt on the ground. I promise that I'll protect Miss Yin out of Golden Eagle Castle. Are you an idiot? Are you willing to give up your life for a promise? Yin Xiaoru shouted at Li Fan. What do you women know? Li Fan laughed. If I can't protect you, what's the point of me, Li Fan, living? Come, Castle Lord Yin, that was just a warm-up. Let me experience a few more moves from you. You have guts. Yin Wuchao handed the long saber to a guard beside him and clenched his fists. Cutting you down would be letting you off too lightly. This old man will shatter all your muscles and bones with my fists and make you beg me to kill you in the end. Yin Wuchao walked over and exchanged a few moves with Li Fan. Because Li Fan had suffered internal injuries and his internal strength was weaker than Yin Wuchao, he was defeated in the end. You think you're invincible after learning some martial arts? What a joke! Yin Wuchao said as he punched Li Fan's right arm. I'll break your right arm first to punish you for being so arrogant and daring to cause trouble in Golden Eagle Castle. Yin Wuchao broke Li Fan's left arm with another punch. I'll break your left arm as a warning to you for deceiving this old man. Yin Wuchao broke Li Fan's left leg with another kick. Li Fan gritted his teeth and stood there with his right leg. I'll break your left leg to let you know that there's always someone better than you out there. Yin Wuchao broke Li Fan's right leg, causing Li Fan to fall to the ground. I'll break your right leg as well so that you'll know how terrifying this old man is. Yin Wuchao squatted on the ground and pulled Li Fan's hair, pulling his head up. Brat, are you afraid? Quick, go save him. Yin Xiaoru begged Guan Wenbao and Yen Kai, who were still fighting with the Golden Eagle Castle's guards. Benefactor ordered me to protect you here, Guan Wenbao said without hesitation. Brat, don't talk nonsense. Yen Kai was also getting impatient. That brat is lucky. Since we're brothers, we should support him with our lives. Yin Xiaoru felt that these people were crazy. This old man is asking you, are you afraid? Yin Wuchao roared at Li Fan, this old man is kind-hearted. If you admit your mistake now, this old man will let you live. Since you're kind-hearted, can you let me and my client leave together? Li Fan asked with a smile with a fishy smell in his mouth. Chapter 391. You still don't know how to repent even at death's door. Yin Wuchao is furious. He raises his fist and fiercely punches Li Fan's face, causing Li Fan's face to be covered in blood. This is not the end. He directly slaps Li Fan's head, causing Li Fan's head to sink into the floor of the arena. At the same time, his fists are constantly hammering Li Fan's body. Each punch is heavier than the previous one, as if he wants to smash Li Fan into meat paste. Don't hit me. Dad, I beg you, please don't hit me. Yin Xiaoru is already choking with sobs. Daughter is begging you. If you beat him to death, daughter doesn't want to live anymore. Fine, do you still want to play suicide with father here? Yin Wuchao roars, I've raised you since you were young. This old man will first beat him to death, then cripple your martial arts, so that you can peacefully get married and raise your children, so that you can get rid of your wild nature. Father. Daughter is really sad. This is the first time Yin Xiaoru has cried so sadly, but she wipes away her tears. She suddenly shakes her hand and throws 3 hidden weapons towards Yin Wuchao. Yin Wuchao is just about to kill Li Fan when he suddenly turns his head and slaps away the 3 hidden weapons. How dare you? How disgraceful. Father knows that you won't learn anything from that wild woman. Father, daughter is unfilial. Today, even if I have to sacrifice my life, I must save Li Fan. Li Fan, I'm sorry, it's me who implicated you. If I can save you, I'll follow you to the ends of the world. If not, I'll accompany you on the road to the Yellow Springs. How can I let you protect me? Just when Yin Wuchao is about to explode in anger, Li Fan, who has been lying on the ground, suddenly speaks. Yin Wuchao is shocked. He lowers his head to look at Li Fan and roars. Stinking brat, you can still speak. It seems like your bones are quite hard. This old man will make you completely speechless. As he spoke, Yin Wuchao's fist smashed fiercely onto the back of Li Fan's head. This time, he planned to beat Li Fan's brains out. But to everyone's surprise, Li Fan suddenly raised his broken right hand and grabbed Yin Wuchao's fist. For some reason, Yin Wuchao felt a chill run down his spine as he abruptly jumped back over 10 meters. Li Fan, whose bones should have been broken, slowly stretched out his hands and pushed against the ground, pulling himself up from the ground bit by bit. At the same time, the bones in his body constantly made cracking sounds. It sounded very frightening. Abnormal bone changing. Abnormal bone changing. Yin Wuchao came to a sudden realization. This kid's aberration bone changing had actually saved his life and allowed his broken bones to be reconnected. This stinking brat actually has such a powerful innate talent, it really makes people envious. If this miraculous skill was given to him, he would be able to do whatever he wanted in the world. Then he wouldn't have to lock up that stinking Wang's son and force him to reveal the location of this miraculous skill. For this miraculous skill that didn't exist, Yin Wuchao had waited for a full 20 years. Yin Wuchao. As a parent, You're forcing your daughter like this? Even if Ms. Een isn't my client, I can't stand it anymore. The bones in Li Fan's body kept cracking as he slowly stood up. The broken bones in his cheeks had also recovered. He wiped the blood off his face, looked at Een Wuchao and said with gritted teeth, "Castle Master Een, if I don't beat you up today, I won't be in a good mood. Then this old man will break your bones again and see how many times you can recover." Een Wuchao picked up the bright moon saber again and pointed it at Li Fan. "First, I'll chop off your head and see if you can grow another one." Phew, Li Fan didn't reply. Instead, he closed his eyes and spat out a mouthful of turbid air. The true qi that he absorbed from Wang Sen yesterday was also mobilized from his god-connecting meridian and filled Li Fan's body. Li Fan's body seemed to have an immortal aura, making him look like an immortal. Acting mysterious. Een Wuchao snorted coldly and threw out an energy saber straight at Li Fan. Li Fan didn't even open his eyes. He just moved his body slightly to the side, and the energy saber flew past his body and cut a tree in half. "Lie down for this old man." Een Wuchao appeared beside Li Fan and slashed horizontally with the bright moon saber in his hand. However, Li Fan stretched out his right hand and pressed on the blade, forcefully pressing the bright moon saber down. Li Fan finally opened his eyes, and there was a cold glint in his eyes, causing Een Wuchao to shiver. "You're pretending to be mysterious again." Without hesitation, Een Wuchao raised his saber and slashed at Li Fan. Meanwhile, Li Fan held up 3 fingers and knocked on Een Wuchao's saber with his left hand like a crane's beak. Clang! Een Wuchao's saber was actually repelled by Li Fan just like that. The white crane nodded. But when Li Fan performed it at this time, it was a little more elegant and unrestrained. "Golden immortal crane." Li Fan spat out 3 words. His crane strike had also reached the Mahayana stage. "Brat. It's useless to play with these strange things. I never leave anyone alive under my saber." Een Wuchao was very confident in his saber technique. He used his desert soul-breaking saber and chased after Li Fan's life. However, Li Fan only used the white crane nodded and kept repelling Een Wuchao's saber, leaving Een Wuchao helpless. "What move is that?" Een Wuchao was shocked that he couldn't take down Li Fan after a long time. White crane nodded. Li Fan said, "Are you done? If you are, it will be my turn." With that, Li Fan suddenly took a step forward. Een Wuchao hurriedly raised his saber to block. However, Li Fan used the white crane nodded and knocked Een Wuchao's saber away. Then he used both hands to tap on Een Wuchao's acupoints. Bang bang bang. Een Wuchao did not expect that Li Fan would have such a swift and decisive attack. He was really quiet like a virgin and moved like a rabbit. In the blink of an eye, he had struck himself more than 10 times, causing the blood in his body to almost stop flowing. He took 2 steps back with blood at the corner of his mouth. He did not dare to believe that Li Fan had suddenly become so much stronger. Originally, Een Wuchao was very strong and Li Fan would need to put in a lot of effort to defeat him. However, Li Fan relied on his explosive strength to launch a sneak attack and seriously injured Een Wuchao. He half knelt on the ground and supported himself with his bright moon saber as he glared at Li Fan. "Brett, you actually hit something. This old man has been roaming the pugilistic world for dozens of years. I never expected that I would be tricked by you today." "You're too polite, Castle Master Een." Li Fan borrowed this true qi from the god-connecting meridian. After using it, he returned it. He was currently lacking in strength and could only stand there. This time, he had consumed a lot of energy in the battle with Een Wuchao. If Een Wuchao got up and attacked again, he might not be able to hold on. "I'll be taking Miss Een with me today. If Castle Master Een is unwilling, feel free to chase after me," Li Fan said as he jumped off the stage and carried Een Xiaoru. Chapter 392. Een Xiaoru was also startled. It wasn't like she couldn't move, so why did Li Fan have to carry her? She didn't know that this was Li Fan's demonstration to Een Wuchao. However, Een Xiaoru didn't think too much about it. She naturally hugged Li Fan's neck, as if being in his arms was a very comfortable feeling. Een Wuchao looked at Li Fan as he leaned on the bright moon saber and said, If you dare to leave with my daughter, you and my Golden Eagle Castle will be irreconcilable enemies. This old man will issue the Golden Eagle Order. The entire Golden Eagle Castle and its guest delegates will start hunting you down. We won't rest until one of us dies. I don't care if you come in the dark or out in the open. Our Fiefan Express will take you on. Li Fan stood beside Guan Wenbao and said loudly. Guan Wenbao pulled out a large flag from behind him and held it in his hand, letting the flag with the words Extraordinary Express flutter in the wind. Castle Lord Yin, we'll meet again if fate wills it. With that, Li Fan gave Guan Wenbao and Yen Kai a look. The three of them immediately used their Qing Gong and quickly left the Golden Eagle Castle's arena. Brother-in-law, wait for me. Murong hurriedly followed behind them and left with them. The guards of Golden Eagle Castle wanted to chase after them, but they were stopped by Yin Wuchao. Don't chase a cornered enemy. Jiang Minzhou wanted to help, but Yin Wuchao pushed him away. This old man is in the prime of his life. Since when do I need your support? Master, what should we do now? Although Jiang Minzhou was quick-witted, he still needed his master to make a decision on such a big matter. Since things have come to this, leave it to Zhenrong. Eldest senior brother is coming back. Jiang Minzhou was delighted. This Su Zhenrong was Yin Wuchao's eldest disciple and had received Yin Wuchao's true teachings. He was in his 30s and had already gained some fame in the pugilistic world. People gave him the nickname Cold Face Golden Knife. He should have come back when Xiaoru got married. Yin Wuchao said, when he comes back, let him chase Xiaoru back. Help me pacify the guests. Today's commotion is really big. Yin Wuchao recovered and went to appease the guests. At this moment, Li Fan and the others were sitting in a second-hand Iveco. The driver was Huang Lei, while Ling Tian sat in the front passenger seat. This Huang Lei still had the smell of a bathtub on him, which made Ling Tian extremely uncomfortable. Everything was going according to plan. Li Fan and Bai Lin Luo were worried that the people from Golden Eagle Castle would block their way when they returned, which would be very troublesome. Thus, they decided to let Ling Tian secretly drive the second-hand Iveco and arrived at the small town a day earlier than Li Fan and Bai Lin Luo. Don't mess around when you're out on missions in the future. Ling Tian scolded Huang Lei. Fuck, how dare you talk to your brother Lei like that? Huang Lei curled his lips as he drove. No matter what, I'm still your senior. I've followed you through so many ups and downs for so many years. Do you understand what's called first come, first served? My words might have offended you, so I apologize first. Ling Tian didn't need Li Fan to teach him how to deal with things. He easily dealt with Huang Lei's temper, and his words convinced Huang Lei. However, I'm now Mr. Li's legal advisor. I'm responsible for Mr. Li's personal safety. What if you're messing around when the bathtub is cracking down on you, and they catch you? If something happens to you, it will affect the entire plan. At that time, how do you expect Mr. Li to deal with it? Should we wait for you here in Golden Eagle Castle, or should we leave you behind? Huang Lei rubbed his nose, and Ling Tian added another sentence. Ling Tian added, I wasn't in this group before, so I naturally didn't care about these things. But now that I'm responsible for Mr. Li's safety, I have to remind you of something. Huang Lei didn't say anything, waiting for Ling Tian to continue. You can indulge yourself however you want, but at the critical moment, you have to control the thing in your crotch. Huang Lei still didn't say anything. Li Fan and Guan Wenbao looked at each other. There was actually someone who could control Huang Lei. It was really not easy. This Ling Tian was really Huang Lei's nemesis. Miss Yin, I've already brought you out according to the agreement. Li Fan began to get to the point. He said to Yin Xiaoru, who was wearing a phoenix crown and red robe, although you lied to me, a mission is a mission. When I bring you back to City A, we'll be even. No, the mission isn't over yet. Yin Xiaoru said seriously, my father will definitely come out to find me. If he takes me back, won't the mission fail again? Hey, that's not what our previous contract said. Li Fan was about to explode. I'm just thinking for your sake, Boss Li. Yin Xiaoru seemed to be smiling because she had left Golden Eagle Castle. If I'm taken back, what will the people outside say? You guys have rescued her, but then you're taken back. Tiske, this won't do you any good at all. Li Fan was a little speechless. Although I don't want to admit it, what she said makes sense. Ling Tian also gave Li Fan a suggestion at this time. At least protect her for a month. After a month, even if she's taken back, it has nothing to do with us. Li Fan could agree with Ling Tian's idea, but Yin Xiaoru obviously didn't think so. How can we do that? It's only a month. What if my father takes me back after a month? Yin Xiaoru quickly pulled Li Fan and said, "Why, do you want me to protect you for the rest of your life?" Li Fan's words made Yin Xiaoru blush slightly. Fuck, why are you blushing? I didn't mean it that way. Who would mean it that way? Don't let your imagination run wild. Fuck, who's letting their imagination run wild? Li Fan wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. Yin Xiaoru suddenly rolled her eyes and said, "Li Fan, I think your agency is still lacking something. After all, it's just a small agency." Li Fan said confidently. "But I believe that sooner or later, Fifan will become a famous escort agency in Jianghu. Yes, so you need to recruit more talents." Yin Xiaoru seemed to be giving advice to Li Fan. "I'm a famous thief in the Jianghu. My master is the master thief. I'll definitely surpass him in the future. I'll give you a chance now. I'll stay in your agency and help it develop quickly." Fuck, we're an agency, not a den of thieves. Why would I take in a thief like you? Not a thief, a hero thief. Yin Xiaoru emphasized. Fine, no matter what it is, I don't want it. Li Fan's attitude was very firm. We're on different paths. We can't work together. I have a strong intelligence network. Yin Xiaoru winked at Li Fan. With me, you'll have this intelligence network. Chapter 393. This girl insisted on joining the gang. Yin Xiaoru's willful request made Li Fan somewhat helpless. How reliable is your intelligence network? Ling Tian rubbed his chin and asked. As a chivalrous thief, if I didn't have qualified informants, I would have been caught a long time ago. Yin Xiaoru said, "It is precisely because of a strong intelligence network that I am able to know the movements of the Imperial Secret Service. Moreover, not only the Imperial Secret Service, but also the movements of the police, I am also very clear about them." "Boss, I think we can try it out for a month," Ling Tian suggested. "Currently, our company's intelligence network comes from me. However, my forte is not intelligence, so my intelligence network is not very wide. If Miss Yin can really fill this gap, it would be a good choice." "That's fine, but I'm afraid that her hands and feet are dishonest and steal our employers' things." Li Fan truthfully spoke out his concern, making Yin Xiaoru angry. "Nonsense," this lady said. "This lady is a thief, not a chivalrous thief. Pay. I am a chivalrous thief, not a thief. I will not steal anything. If this lady is not interested in things, I will not take them. What if you are interested in the employer's things?" Li Fan asked, causing Yin Xiaoru to suddenly become mute. Then I will bear with it. After all, you are my boss, I will still listen to you." This girl seemed to be a little scared. "Xiao AI, what do you think?" Li Fan suddenly asked Murong AI, who was sitting at the side looking at the scenery. Murong AI was surprised. She didn't expect that her brother-in-law would actually ask for her opinion. "Brother-in-law, these things, I don't really understand." Murong AI hurriedly said, "For business matters, brother-in-law can learn from sister. Sister has managed the Murong villa in good order all by herself, and we've made a lot of money these few years." Li Fan couldn't bring himself to ask Murong Ing for advice, so he said, "I just think that you're also a girl, and you're the same as Yin Xiaoru. You're the kind of person who acts one way on the surface and another on the inside, so I want to ask for your opinion." "Brother-in-law." "Li Fan, who's that kind of person?" The two girls were a little unhappy. "How about this?" Li Fan looked at the people sitting in the Iveco. "Including Xiao AI, let's all vote." Those who agreed to join her raised their hands. "If more than half of them pass, I'll try her for a month." Hey. It's fine if you guys vote. Why did you bring her along?" Yin Xiaoru protested. she's just your sister-in-law. It's enough to prove that I'm a fair, just, and democratic person. Li Fan smiled at Yin Xiaoru. If you have the chance to join our family, you'll definitely enjoy the benefits of democracy. Yin Xiaoru was furious, but she had to lower her head. Come on, let's vote. The moment Li Fan finished speaking, Huang Lei, Ling Tian, and Guan Wenbao all raised their hands. Murong Ai, Yan Kai, and Li Fan didn't raise their hands. Exactly half. That's a bit difficult. Li Fan frowned. Can I hear everyone's opinions? Lei, why did you raise your hand? You're a master thief. Brother. Huang Lei was so excited that he stepped on the gas pedal. I'll have to ask Miss Yin for advice in the future. I wanted to be the holy thief back then. Damn you, the next one is? Ling Tian, what do you think, old Guan? Benefactor, please don't laugh at me if I say it out loud. Guan Wenbao had a serious look on his face. Li Fan thought to himself that he always had a serious look on his face. Since we brought Miss Yin out, she should be responsible for her. Besides, we can restrain her behavior. It's killing two birds with one stone. Guan Wenbao was an honest man, and today was the first time he spoke so much. Benefactor, please excuse me. Guan Wenbao cupped his hands, but Li Fan comforted him. Hey, you're right. Look, Yin Xiaoru looked as if she was right. Don't say anything. I haven't finished my questions. Li Fan asked Murong Ai, why don't you let her come? Exclude all the women around brother-in-law, except for my sister. This girl's answer was hard to refute. Li Fan was silent for a while, then asked Yan Kai, what about you? Women are so troublesome. Yan Kai said casually, how can a man bring a woman with him when he's in Jianghu? I think it's better to recruit 2 more handsome guys to conquer the world with us. Fuck off. Li Fan rolled his eyes angrily. How about this? Yin Xiaoru took out a coin. Since you can't make up your mind, let fate decide, okay? Toss a coin? Yes. The number side means yes, and the chrysanthemum side means no. Okay. Li Fan said that was the only way. Fate decided, so he wouldn't be conflicted. Okay, I'll toss the coin. But Li Fan reached out and caught the coin that Yin Xiaoru tossed in the air. I'll see the result. Yin Xiaoru pursed her lips. Li Fan's subtext was very obvious. Lest you, this girl, cheat. This girl was a famous thief. If he gave her full authority, who knows what kind of tricks she would use. Li Fan slapped the coin on the back of his hand. When he opened his hand, it was the number side. Look, God's will. Yin Xiaoru took back her coin, and at the same time, a triumphant smile hung on the corner of her mouth. Li Fan always felt that something was wrong. Since he lost the bet, he had no choice but to accept it. Then from today onwards, you'll enter the probation period. Li Fan said, Boss, I have a job for you. The boss, tell me. Yin Xiaoru seemed a little excited. Tell me first, how did you trick me with the coin? Li Fan had bullet time, but it only appeared during the competition. Without feeling any threat, he couldn't find out what trick Yin Xiaoru used. Okay, since you want to know, then I'll satisfy you. Yin Xiaoru put on a righteous look. Actually, it's not that difficult. I just changed the coin the moment I tossed it. Yin Xiaoru spread out her hand. The coin in her palm had the number 1 on both sides. He had to admit that Yin Xiaoru's technique was indeed fast. The coin that was inspected previously was still fine, but in the blink of an eye, it became like this. Okay, Yin Xiaoru, you win. In the future, work hard in the escort agency. If you cause trouble again, I'll still fire you. Yes, boss. Please use me. Chapter 394. Yin Xiaoru joined the gang just like that. Originally, Li Fan didn't have much hope for her, but to Li Fan's surprise, this girl's cooking skills were surprisingly good. As soon as she arrived at Li Fan's security company in the market, she made a delicious meal and conquered everyone with her cooking skills. Even Yan Kai, who claimed to be a Taoist priest and only ate plain tea and food, regretted that he didn't raise his hand to agree at that time after eating Yin Xiaoru's food. Because he successfully brought out Yin Xiaoru, Li Fan's extraordinary courier name also became famous in the martial arts world. In the past few days, some people came to deliver darts. 4 ordinary small darts. Li Fan let Guan Wenbao and Yen Kai take turns delivering them. As time went on, business would definitely get better and better. As the days went by, the business of Li Fan's escort agency also gradually improved. In the blink of an eye, winter passed just like that, and City A welcomed spring. The days were very ordinary. Golden Eagle Castle didn't come looking for trouble, so Yin Xiaoru stayed in the escort agency with peace of mind. But occasionally, this girl would disappear for a few days, probably to do her old job. Li Fan didn't care too much, because he knew that Yin Xiaoru was a heroic thief, and she wouldn't take ill-gotten gains. On Lu Xinan's side, the Red Dragon Society was almost done, and he was probably invited to search for the Ming Dynasty's royal treasures at any time. Li Fan didn't slack off either. While going to school, he ran the escort agency, and at the same time, he practiced his martial arts. However, Li Fan felt that his martial arts seemed to have reached a bottleneck, and he didn't make any progress for a long time. Li Fan told Murong-ing about his troubles, but Murong-ing only rolled her eyes at him. To be able to reach the peak of perfection in a year's time, this was simply something that others could only dream of. This guy was still not satisfied. In such ordinary days, Li Fan and City A welcomed spring together. Spring in a city was different from other places. Because it was located in the north and was influenced by the Siberian climate, spring here was not much better than winter. Early in the morning, it began to snow heavily in City A. Everything was covered in silver. Li Fan was wearing a navy blue cotton-padded jacket as he pushed open the classroom door. And Murong loved to jump and follow behind him, running out together. Ever since Murong announced that she was moving into her sister's house, the girl had been pestering Li Fan to go to school with him. Li Fan had no choice but to divide the dates. He went to and from school with Lin Yuechen on Monday, Wednesday and Friday. When they were in middle school, they loved going to and from school together with Murong. As for Lin Yu, Li Fan had already explained that he was picking up his sister-in-law and asked her not to misunderstand. But every time Lin Yuechen looked at him, it was as if she was looking at a pervert, which made Li Fan feel very wronged. Damn, it's like I'm seducing my sister-in-law. It's my sister-in-law who's seducing me, okay? Xiao, AI, you've grown up. You can't always stick to brother-in-law. Li Fan reminded Murong, and we haven't left the school yet. You're too close to me. Keep a meter away from me. Oh, what are you afraid of? Isn't the school settled by brother-in-law? Murong said with a smile, even if I cling to brother-in-law, no one in the school dares to say anything. With sister and brother-in-law here, who dares to say anything? That won't do. Be careful. Li Fan reminded Murong, it's not like you don't know that the relationship between your sister and I is still confidential at school. Brother-in-law is really careful. Murong had to keep a little distance from Li Fan. Brother-in-law, how long do you want to keep it a secret? University will be fine. It was unknown who Li Fan was comforting. His current relationship with Murong-ing was indeed a bit strange. Since the last time they almost had sex, Murong-ing refused to let Li Fan sleep on her bed. This woman was simply an intermittent psychopath. However, Li Fan got his own bed back as he wished. Finally, he didn't have to sleep on a rope anymore. If it weren't for Tai Zhu, who liked to stand guard at home, Li Fan estimated that Murong would run to his room every few days. Living with this family was too much of a battle of wits and courage. Brother-in-law, where are you going to go? I don't know yet. Let's talk about it later. Li Fan walked out of the teaching building. Looking at the falling snow outside, he couldn't help but stretch. Great. Tomorrow is the holiday. Although the second high school was much more relaxed, it was still very strict about studying. Although it was only the second year of high school, the winter holiday was only a short 15 days. It started 7 days before the new year and ended 7 days after the new year. It's time to pack up. Are you moving away? Li Fan looked a little happy, which made Murong pout. Brother-in-law, do you really want to drive me away? Of course not. Am I that kind of person? Li Fan coughed twice. I won't move away. We are going back to Murong Villa together. What? Why are we going back there? Murong Villa was a place that Li Fan didn't want to step in his life. Everyone is going back to Murong Villa for the new year. Brother-in-law is no exception. Why? Because you are also a member of Murong Villa. Murong looked at Li Fan strangely. Aren't you? Of course not. My surname is Li. Li Fan said without hesitation. My surname is not Murong. Next time you call me by the wrong name, you will be miserable. Brother-in-law, won't you go back with us? No. I will stay in City A for the new year. Li Fan had his own business in City A, so he wouldn't go to Murong Villa to be bullied. I will stay with you. Murong volunteered but was stopped by Li Fan. Forget it. If you stay with me, your house will explode. Li Fan thought to himself, this girl is a little bomb. I said that brother-in-law is too bored to be alone. I am afraid that brother-in-law will go out and mess around, so I will stay to supervise him. Yes, this must be a good reason. Good your ass. You are making trouble for me. As Li Fan said, he stretched out his hand and rubbed Murong's hair desperately, messing up Murong's neat hairstyle. Brother-in-law, I won't grow taller if I keep rubbing your head. Looking at the little girl who had grown to the height of his nose, Li Fan muttered in his heart, where do you want to grow? You are quite close to your sister-in-law. A sour voice sounded next to him. Li Fan's heart sank. He turned around and saw that it was indeed his little lover, Lin Yu. Today, Lin Yuxian was wearing a white down jacket over her school uniform. The down jacket reached her knees, and she also had a light yellow mohair scarf around her. She looked very artistic. However, the look in her eyes was not as artistic as before. Chapter 395. Isn't today Saturday? Why did this last pop out? She's not playing according to the script. Li Fan felt uneasy because he saw Lin Yuxian's eyes were filled with jealousy. There's a scary creature in this world, and that's women. And what's scarier than a woman is a jealous woman. Li Fan was on tenterhooks because he met such a scary creature. Lin Yuxian, this little girl, is usually fine, but once she's black-bellied, she's very scary. What a coincidence. Li Fan's greeting manner was also very awkward. The moment he said it, he wanted to slap himself. Yes, what a coincidence. We're actually from the same school. What a coincidence. Lin Yuxian clapped her hands lightly. Hey, this woman, it's not Monday or Friday. Why did you pop out? Murong AI hugged Li Fan's arm and looked at Lin Yuxian in a threatening manner. Sister is giving in to you, but I won't. Brother-in-law belongs to me, belongs to us. Lin Yuxian didn't even look at Murong AI, but said to Li Fan. Li Fan, those who eat secretly are the most shameful. Who's eating secretly? Don't talk nonsense. Li Fan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I'm innocent. It suddenly occurred to him that the relationship between him and Murong AI could not be considered as pure and innocent. Humph, what does this have to do with you? This is our family's matter. Behind closed doors, no one can interfere. When Murong AI said that, she was very pleased with herself. She felt that her little tail was about to stand up. Manage your sister-in-law. Adults are talking, don't interrupt a child. How are you big? Murong AI immediately became anxious. You're obviously the same as me. We're both airplanes. You still have the cheek to say that you're big. You actually use breasts to evaluate a woman. That's too childish. You don't even have breasts and you're still arrogant. My legs are longer than yours. Murong choked and did not speak for a long time. Li Fan didn't know why, but he really wanted to clap his hands. Lin Yuxian was really awesome to be able to make Murong choke on her love. Brother-in-law, sob. She bullied me. Murong tugged at Li Fan's sleeve and acted pitiful. Alright. Stop arguing, you two. You're making my head hurt. Li Fan rubbed his temples and said, Moon Immortal, why did you look for me today? Speak. Lin Yuxian wasn't a woman who didn't know what was important. She suddenly appeared to look for him, so there must be something. You idiot. Lin Yuxian scolded Li Fan. It's almost the Lunar New Year. Aren't you going to give out red packets to the people in the company? The accounts of the security company had always been managed by Lin Yuhsing. Hearing her question, Li Fan suddenly remembered. Of course I will. It's the Lunar New Year. Give out more money so that everyone can have a good new year. Give out your sister. The company has been in a state of deficit. Your operating funds are almost used up. Lin Yuthan stomped her feet angrily. What are you going to use to give out red packets to everyone? Then I'll pay for it. Murong said with a smile. My pocket money is quite a lot. It's about 7 digits. It's enough for brother-in-law to give out red packets. Damn, this is another rich woman. Murong Bo is too indulgent with her daughter. I don't need Murong's money. Li Fan's words made Murong pout again. Brother-in-law is sometimes like a stone in a latrine pit, smelly and hard. Moon Immortal, how much money is left in the accounts? Are you sure you want to talk about this here? Lin Yin raised her head and looked at Li Fan as if she was looking at an idiot. Li Fan looked around at the students who were watching the show. He thought to himself that he had indeed made a mistake. All right, let's go to the noodle restaurant. I'll treat you two to a meal. Although the billiard hall was open, it was a mess inside. The noodle restaurant was fine. Because it was a long break, the students were busy going home. Not many people ate noodles. Lin Yin seemed to be a little proud. It was as if she was telling Murong that even if it was not 1 to 5, she could still make Li Fan obediently follow her rhythm. Murong did not want to be outdone. She glared back at Lin Yin. To be honest, Lin Yin was also unhappy. She was clearly fighting with Murong Ying. That was fine. Now, there was also Murong Ying's younger sister. The way this girl looked at Li Fan was definitely not normal. If someone said that this girl did not like Li Fan, he would not believe it even if he was beaten to death. The three of them sat in the noodle restaurant. There were indeed not many people. The waiters were sitting at the side, playing with their mobile phones to kill time. This is all the money left in the accounts. Lin Yuthan opened the account book and showed it to Li Fan. There are more than 30,000 yuan left in the accounts. This is not even enough to pay everyone's salaries. Don't the merchants pay protection fees? I mean, security fees? Old Guan and Yen Kai are also doing escort business. They should have some income, right? Li Fan frowned. This little money is not enough to cover our expenses. Lin Yuthan rolled her eyes at Li Fan. You think it's a lot of money? You're such an idiot. Not many merchants are willing to pay and you don't want to force them. Now we're basically relying on Old Guan and the others to do the escort business. But they're all small escorts. The money is not much and it's hard to operate. Oh? The merchants don't want to pay anymore? Li Fan raised an eyebrow. It's simple. We'll take away their security. In the future, we won't be in charge of the safety of this area. Won't be in charge? Then what's the difference between us and those people who collect protection fees? The Yellow Uniform Regiment will definitely come to collect more money. Lin Yuthan was shocked. That clever little brain of yours shouldn't be so one-sided. Li Fan reminded her, think again. What has their lives got to do with us? Murong said immediately. If they don't pay, we'll just ignore them. You're cold-blooded and heartless. Lin Yuthan glared at Murong and said to Li Fan, I understand what you mean. After all, we're running a business. We can't do things for free. It's good that you understand. Li Fan said, everyone still needs to eat. How can we do things for free? We're running a security company, not a charity company. But we're not a triad, so we won't force them. If they pay, we'll do it. If they don't pay, we won't do it. It's that simple. All right? Lin Yuthan nodded, agreeing with Li Fan. I still have 200,000 in savings. Let's use it to pay everyone's salaries. There's also a red packet for Lunar New Year. Give everyone some red packets for a Happy New Year. All right. Lin Yuhsan's clever little brain calculated everything in minutes, including how many red packets each person would get. Chapter 396. Brother-in-law didn't like to let others pay for his business. With this temper, Murong couldn't say anything even if she loved it. Actually, she really wanted to help her brother-in-law. Wasn't it just a matter of money? A small security company wouldn't need much money. However, this 200,000 is only enough to operate for 2 months. Lin Yuthin said, if we don't generate income, after 2 months, everyone will be starving. We have a lot of security personnel now, and it's more than enough to protect one market. I understand what you mean. We should arrange for them to do some other work. Li Fan nodded. Indeed, they should let the security company do some other projects. If they only protected one market, this bit of income wouldn't be enough. I'll let Ling Tian help us arrange the business. Li Fan thought for a moment, then laughed again. This guy's business network is quite wide. Let him handle it, there shouldn't be a problem. I hope this legal consultant you found will be useful. Lin Yuthin couldn't help but groan softly. I'm also drunk. Such a small company actually has a legal consultant. Another useless expense. This isn't a useless expense. Li Fan immediately argued. Because of Ling Tian, I was able to smoothly get out of prison. And he's very important to us, opening a company, especially this kind of company. If we don't have a legal consultant, we won't be able to do anything. Okay, you always have a reason. Lin Yuthin was speechless at Li Fan's excuses. This guy always had a bunch of excuses waiting for her. Li Fan took out his phone and directly called Ling Tian. After a few minutes, he hung up the phone. It's done. There's a newly opened nightclub. Tomorrow, a group of people will go there to be security guards. Li Fan winked at Lin Yuthin. It's settled, you should communicate with Ling Tian more. Talk your sister. Lin Yuthin glared at Li Fan and said, all right, I'll talk to him more. Since it was for the good of the company that everyone had built together, Lin Yuthin could only endure it. But why are you talking to Ling Tian about the market? Lin Yuthin couldn't help but ask, do you also want him to solve this problem? If you need to come up with ideas, you should either talk to Bai Lin Luo or Ling Tian. Li Fan suggested to Lin Yuthin, but if it's an upright matter, let Bai Lin Luo help. If it's something like this, Ling Tian's method will be more effective. Got it. So you're just a hands-off boss. Lin Yuthin rolled her eyes. Li Fan laughed. I still have other things to do. Speaking of which, I'm more like the spiritual leader of this group. Plus, with me around, the company's name will be even more prominent. Li Fan was the boss of this company. He was more like the company's spokesperson. Alright, that's all. Lin Yuthin suddenly hesitated. What's wrong? Is there any other problem with the company? It's not the company's problem. Lin Yuthin was a little shy again. Murong pouted at the side. Where's your fierce look just now? You're starting to be shy again. This sister-in-law of yours should take 2 lessons on etiquette. Do you want to fight? Murong's left hand shone with a cold light and became very white. Li Fan grabbed her left hand and dissolved the qi from her ice palm. Interesting. Lin Yuthin's words carried ridicule. Do you guys practice martial arts just to fight ordinary people? Of course not. Don't mind Xiao Ai. She just has a bad temper. I'll discipline her well. Oomph. Murong made a face at Lin Yuthin with an unconvinced look. On the first day of the new year, can I pay my respects to uncle and auntie? When Lin Yuthin said this, her face was already red. This is a bit difficult. Li Fan was very embarrassed. Why can't I even pay my respects? You're too petty. Li Fan, classmate Li, what do you take me for? A beautiful girl who's throwing herself at you? A free intelligent labor force? Lin Yuthin seemed to be very angry. The moment she came, she let out a series of roars, scaring the other people in the noodle shop. It was rare for a beautiful girl to be so angry. Even Li Fan was shocked. How long has Lin Yuthin been suppressing herself? It's not what you think. Li Fan explained. It's not just you. Even I can't visit my parents for the new year. Uncle and auntie passed away. I don't know, sorry. Lin Yuthin was shocked. Li Fan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Sorry, they didn't pass away. They went on vacation. I don't even know where they are. I just received a message from my mom 2 days ago, telling me that they're going to spend the new year abroad. Hearing Li Fan's explanation, Lin Yuthin was also speechless. This pair of parents is a bit too unreliable. So, It's not that I don't want you to pay your respects, but I really can't do it. Okay, it's my fault. I shouldn't have lost my temper. I'm sorry. Lin Yuan actually apologized to Li Fan. Li Fan even suspected that he heard wrong. If there's a chance, I'll definitely let you meet my parents, if they still remember me as their son. How can there be parents who don't care about their children? They'll definitely come back. I hope so. Anyway, I'm doing quite well on my own. Li Fan shrugged his shoulders. That's all for today. I'll leave first. There are some accounts to settle. If you have time tonight, come to the office. Before the new year, there were some accounts to settle. Li Fan understood. Then I'll see you tonight. See you tonight. While Li Fan was spending time with Lin Yuan and Murong, Ling Tian was sitting in his office and making a call to a certain someone. Yes, release the news that the extraordinary security in the old market has temporarily withdrawn. Ling Tian put down the phone and then called Li Fan. In less than 3 days, the remaining users will obediently pay. Okay, I got it. Li Fan put down the phone. At this time, he had already returned home with Murong. The house was clean and tidy. There were a few big boxes in the living room. Tai Zhu was arranging some clothes. Son-in-law, you're finally back. We should set off. You guys go back. I'll be in City A for the new year. Li Fan's words stunned Tai Zhu. Meanwhile, Murong Ai shrugged her shoulders, implying that she had already persuaded him. What did you say? Murong Ing wore a violet cheongsam and slowly walked down the stairs. Chapter 397. What did you say? Murong Ing was tall and had a big chest. This cheongsam accentuated her figure incisively and vividly. She was as seductive as one could imagine. Although they were an old couple, Li Fan couldn't help but be stunned when he saw Murong Ing like this. I didn't hear you clearly. Say it again? He didn't know if Murong Ing really didn't hear him clearly or if she was threatening him. However, Li Fan's attitude was very certain. I won't go back. You guys can go back by yourselves. Li Fan, do you know what you're saying? Murong Ing seemed a little angry. You've been practicing martial arts for more than a year. How can you still be so childish? Talking to you is always so unpleasant. Li Fan said, You're still so overbearing and unreasonable. This is the way you chose. Murong Ing said bluntly, I could have spoken to you in a more gentle way. Are you saying that I angered you? Li Fan said very indifferently, Why don't you say that your arbitrary decision angered me first? Arbitrary? What's so arbitrary about going home for New Year's? I don't like Murong Villa. Li Fan said very straightforwardly, That's why I'm not going. Li Fan, is this the time for you to be willful? How am I willful? It's the tradition for the wife to spend the New Year's at her husband's house, right? Straight man cancer. Who's straight man cancer? If Murong's family treats me better, maybe I won't be so stubborn. Li Fan's words were very direct, and Murong Ing was also very unhappy. What can I do? Father, he just has that temper, so why should I go to a cold buttocks with a warm face? Li Fan rolled his eyes. What's the point of me going to such a place? It's fine if you don't come back to Murong Villa usually, but this time it's very important. Murong Ing reminded Li Fan, you have to remember, even if you don't admit it, you are still a member of the Murong family. How did I become a member of Murong's family? Aren't you my fiancé? Murong asked. I won't refute you, but that doesn't mean I have to give in to your Murong family. Li Fan emphasized. Why are you so stubborn? Heh, what a coincidence. Li Fan clapped his hands. If you're not a family, don't marry into the same family. My dear betrothed, are you any different from me? You. Murong Ying's innate qi revolved, but was immediately suppressed by her. Anyway, this is how I am. If you want to go back yourself. Once Li Fan became stubborn, even 9 bulls couldn't pull him away. Murong loved to stand at the side, so it wasn't appropriate for her to interrupt. When this sister and brother-in-law quarreled, she could only be a bystander. Eldest miss, son-in-law, stop quarreling. Tai Zhu hurriedly mediated. Usually, when the two of them quarreled, she would be the peacemaker. Son-in-law, you see, it's going to be New Year soon. Eldest Miss wants you to go back home together. You should understand, right? After all, in Eldest Miss's heart, you're already her family. Murong-ing snorted softly, declining to comment. Taiju hurriedly continued, son-in-law doesn't want to go back to Murong Villa. As a servant, I can understand. But Eldest Miss can't be at ease leaving son-in-law alone in a city. Now that so many forces want to kill son-in-law, this kind of concern for your husband, I'm sure you understand, son-in-law? Li Fan didn't say anything, but his expression obviously relaxed a little. And every new year, the Murong family will also return to Murong Villa. If son-in-law doesn't go back, Eldest Miss will definitely be laughed at by her family. And Eldest Miss is a person who cares about face, son-in-law knows. Brother-in-law, just go back with us. Murong also begged, I want to spend the new year with brother-in-law. Li Fan glanced at Murong-ing, but Murong-ing turned her eyes elsewhere. But this girl didn't say anything, so it was obvious that she was being unreasonable. It was enough for one person in the family to be unreasonable. Li Fan thought that as a man, he shouldn't make things difficult for a woman. Okay, then I'll go back. Great. Brother-in-law, you're so nice. Murong Ai clapped her hands happily, and Taiju also heaved a sigh of relief. Then pack up, we'll leave in a while. Murong-ing finally spoke, but Li Fan looked at the time and said, a little later, I have to go to the company to check the accounts before the new year. About how long? Murong-ing asked. It won't take too long, 2 hours should be enough. Li Fan said, Taiju can help me pack 2 clothes, I won't bring too many things. "'Kay, son-in-law, I'll do it now." Taiju was also excited. It was not easy to make son-in-law give in. Li Fan turned around and went out the door, and Murong said, Sister, brother-in-law can give in because he cares about you. Humph, what does a child know? Murong-ing reprimanded her, but Murong-exen muttered to herself, Sister, I know more than you do. Moreover, I know more about brother-in-law than you. However, Murong would not tell her sister about these things. You should also pack up, we'll leave in a while. Got it, I'll take a shower first. Murong said and ran to the bathroom. Follow him. Murong-ing looked at Li Fan's figure outside the window and ordered. A figure immediately flew out from the roof and seemed to follow Li Fan. Li Fan did not know that someone was following him. He came to the security company located in the market as promised. Several security guards had not yet got off work and were training himself at the request of Guan Wenbao. Lin Yuehin and Li Fan sorted out the accounts together. Fortunately, Li Fan's mathematical ability was not bad, so he helped a little. I saw some gangsters going to the market just now. After Lin Yuehin finished sorting out the accounts, she suddenly raised her head and looked at Li Fan as she said this. Well, it seems that some people won't be able to do business tonight. Li Fan looked down at the account book and said casually, To be honest, I don't like this. Lin Yuehin said, We seem like bad people. Good people? Bad people? Li Fan smiled. How do we distinguish good from evil? We protect those traders, this is good, right? Yes, there's no doubt. Then, they don't care whether we can eat our fill or not, they only care about their own interests. Are they good or evil? Lin Yuehin was silent. There is no absolute good or evil. What I'm doing now is the same. Li Fan said, I only need to do one thing, and that is to fill our stomachs. Moreover, these gangsters don't dare to do anything. At most, they'll threaten these traders. Anyway, I still feel uncomfortable in my heart. You said that because your mother was one of the peddlers. Chapter 398. Although Lin Yuehin didn't want to admit it, she couldn't help but think that he was right. When they need me, these hooligans will naturally disappear. Li Fan's answer made Lin Yuehin feel a little cold. I don't know why. It feels like you've changed. Li Fan pointed to himself. What changed? You've become a little mature and a little cold. Lin Yuehin said, In the past, if you saw something unfair, you would definitely help. It's the same now. Li Fan laughed. No matter when, this character of mine will not change. However, no matter how enthusiastic I am to help others, I still have to let my brothers eat their fill, right? Have you ever thought that if I don't even have the ability to operate this security company, when the security company really withdraws from here, there will really be no one to protect these small peddlers? Li Fan's words made Lin Yusan unable to defend herself. She seemed to be a little too smart, and she especially agreed with Li Fan's words. However, Lin Yan was a girl after all. Her emotional part also told her that this was still a little cold-blooded. Forget it, I don't want to discuss this with you. As long as everyone is fine. Lin Yusan didn't say anything. Well, then let's see each other after the new year. Li Fan was about to say goodbye to Lin Yusan, but at this time, a security guard downstairs shouted, "Boss, someone is looking for you downstairs." Who would come looking for me during the new year? Li Fan was very curious. He put on a cotton coat and went downstairs. In the small courtyard in front of the Earth building stood a young man wearing a golden coat. This man was about 30 years old, and he looked heroic. He stood in this world of ice and snow, carrying a violin case on his back, wearing a small shirt and unlined clothes. He must be an internal force expert. This person was very polite. He cupped his hands towards Li Fan and said, "Are you the little tyrant, Li Fan?" He asked directly. "Yes, who are you?" Li Fan looked at the violin case, which was definitely not a violin. "Sorry, I forgot to introduce myself." The golden-clothed youth smiled casually. "My name is Su Jinrong, the eldest disciple of the Golden Eagle Castle Lord, Yin Wuchao." Li Fan became vigilant. "Oh? So, you're here to look for trouble?" "You can't say that. We are martial artists. Jianghu matters should be left to Jianghu," Su said. Su Jinrong's smile. "You stole my junior sister, I have to bring her back. You're going to fight. Using martial arts to make friends, why not?" Su Jinrong put down the violin case. "If I can win 2 moves against you, then I will take my junior sister away. If you win, I'll turn around and leave." "That sounds fair." Li Fan also took off his coat and handed it to a security guard. "Keep it safe for me. I still need to wear it later." "Don't worry, boss. I'll protect this coat like I protect my son." The guard immediately patted his chest and said. Li Fan looked at the young security guard who was about 16 or 17 years old and could not help but ask, "Do you have a son?" "No, but there will be." "All right." Li Fan turned his head and looked at Su Jinrong. "We can begin." The market in the old city was very sturdy. Even if it was snowing, it could not stop the enthusiasm of the people who set up their stalls. However, it seemed that because of the disturbance caused by the hooligans, many of the vendors had already left work early, and the surroundings were very quiet. Li Fan did a few warm-up moves. "I'm sorry, it seems that it's because of the cold weather that my muscles and bones tend to stiffen easily." "It's understandable." Su Jinrong smiled. "Feel free to warm up. Call me when you're done." "It's almost done." Li Fan hooked his finger at Su Jinrong. "Young hero Su, show me your weapon." "I'll do as you say." Su Jinrong kicked his violin case. The case opened, and a golden knife about a meter long flew out and landed in his hand. "Different from master, I like to use a knife." Su Jinrong weighed his knife. "I like to call it Yama knife. This name is a bit scary. It's only used to scare people," Su Jinrong said as he let the knife spin in his hand. This knife spinning speed was very fast, and there was a clear gap between it and Yin Wuchao's desert soul-breaking knife. Su Jinrong took a step forward, and at that moment, Li Fan felt that the surrounding snowflakes seemed to have stopped for a moment. In the next second, Su Jinrong appeared in front of Li Fan. The knife in his hand was still spinning as it swept towards Li Fan's lower abdomen. This knife was indeed fast. If Li Fan did not have bullet time, it would not be easy for him to dodge. Li Fan wanted to use the great sage plucking the stars, but he felt that the power of the saber was too great for him to catch. Thus, Li Fan changed his strategy and used White Crane Nod to knock on the knife's body. Clang! The knife's body sank, and Li Fan's left hand locked onto Su Jinrong's throat. At the same time, he raised his knee and kicked Su Jinrong's lower abdomen. Su Jinrong took a step back from the kick and left a footprint on the ground before stabilizing his body. Not bad. Su Jinrong patted his lower abdomen as if to brush off the dust on it. No wonder you were able to force my master to retreat. You are very powerful. Should I thank you for your praise? Li Fan repositioned himself, but I usually do not thank those who provoke me. We are all friends through martial arts. Why are you so nervous? Su Jinrong smiled, but it was my fault earlier for looking down on you. I won't do it now. As he spoke, Su Jinrong kicked the violin case again, and another dagger popped out and landed in his other hand. Dual knife style? Li Fan did not expect this. He only heard Murong Ing mention it before. Dual knife style rarely appeared in the pugilistic world because it was very hard to train. Even if there were people who trained it, it would be very common. Su Jinrong's two knife moves were very beautiful, causing Li Fan to feel a little dazzled. Let's have the second round, young hero Li. Su Jinrong said, and with a flick of his foot, he quickly disappeared from Li Fan's sight. His speed was very fast. This was his advantage. But Li Fan's speed was not slow either. His bullet time was his advantage. Two knives quickly cut in front of Li Fan. Li Fan stretched out his hands and used White Crane Nod to knock away Su Jinrong's two knives. But this time, Su Jinrong's knife technique was very sharp. After being knocked away, the two knives changed direction and slashed towards Li Fan again. This guy's knife technique was indeed unusual. Chapter 399. Su Jinrong's saber technique was very smooth and flexible. He attacked and retracted his saber as fast as lightning. Dang dang dang. Li Fan's crane head kept hitting Su Jinrong's saber, but it couldn't stop Su Jinrong's next attack. If this went on, Li Fan would be in an even more disadvantageous position. As long as Su Jinrong seized the opportunity, his two sabers would cut Li Fan's body. Li Fan suddenly closed his eyes and completely entered the lightning deer state. His hands were two doors, and he could only use his feet to kick people. But the lightning deer's only weakness was that although Li Fan could lock the opponent with his palms, he didn't have a strong defense like Golden Immortal He. But after Li Fan activated all the forms of the 7 hero fists, he found that he could try to combine the two forms. Crane and deer double form. Li Fan's hands were still in the form of crane hands, and he kept slapping away Su Jinrong's attacks. No matter how fast Su Jinrong's sabers were, Li Fan's crane hands could easily keep up. This made Su Jinrong a little anxious. He kept attacking quickly, and the two of them kept moving around in the small courtyard. Su Jinrong's sabers were pushed away by Li Fan from time to time, and they would hit the stone wall at the side, leaving deep marks on the wall. And Li Fan suddenly found a gap and kicked Su Jinrong's calf. Su Jinrong attacked for a long time, but he didn't make any progress. In the end, he was kicked by Li Fan until he almost knelt on the ground. But he turned his body, and his two sabers almost cut toward Li Fan's legs. This was the first time Li Fan saw such a clever saber technique. But his body jumped up, and his hands pressed down on Su Jinrong's wrists. Clang, clang. With two loud sounds, Su Jinrong's sabers hit the ground. And Li Fan had already flipped in the air, and at the same time, he spun and swept his leg on Su Jinrong's body. Bam! Su Jinrong's body was kicked back 2 steps, and he stabilized himself again. Su Jinrong's unchanging face finally showed a little surprise. Young hero, good skills. Su Jinrong felt that 2 kinds of martial arts appeared on Li Fan at the same time, and he was defeated by these 2 kinds of martial arts. Your blade technique is not bad, Li Fan said. Moreover, you're so young, yet you've already reached the pinnacle of strength. It's really surprising. Young hero Li, aren't you making me feel ashamed? Su Jinrong laughed bitterly. I'm 37 this year, and I've just reached the peak. Young hero, you're only 20 years old, yet you already have such great strength. It really makes me feel ashamed. Su Jinrong thought to himself, this little brother has to be at the peak of the middle or upper stage. How did he practice martial arts at this age? He and his fiancée, Murong Ing, were both perverts. It seems that my kung fu is still not as good as young hero Li, Su Jinrong sighed. Since that's the case, I won't embarrass myself. Little junior sister will be safer here with you, so I can be at ease. If you go back like this, will you be able to report to Castle Lordine? I didn't do a good job, and I'm ashamed to face Master. However, even so, I don't need to be responsible to Master. Li Fan was a bit surprised to hear this. This was a bit disgraceful. Because I don't belong to Golden Eagle Castle now, but to the world's #1 alliance, Riding Horse Whistling West Wind. What? Riding Horse Whistling West Wind? Li Fan was stunned. What's this? I don't think Murong Ing mentioned it before. Alliance Master Murong probably didn't mention it to you, right? After all, she doesn't agree with this. Young hero, you might not know, but the pugilistic world is divided into 4 major alliances. 4 major alliances? Old Guan, have you heard of them? Benefactor, I've heard of them. Guan Wenbao nodded. Back then, one of the 4 major alliances, the White Tiger Hall of the Central Plains, also looked for me. Brother Guan, you're the descendant of the righteous god. The White Tiger Hall of the Central Plains naturally appreciates a talent like you. Su Jinrong cupped his hands. If Brother Guan can enter the White Tiger Hall, it can be considered a good thing. However, speaking of chivalry, I feel that I have to mention Riding Horse Whistling West Wind. Let's talk about the 4 major alliances. Li Fan's interest was piqued. Back then, the pugilistic world was full of sects and wars. Every sect had their own strengths and wanted to control the pugilistic world. However, there were too many experts, and the pugilistic world had internal strife for a long time. Until a genius expert appeared and changed everything. Expert? Yes, his name is Lu Jinshan. When Su Jinrong talked about this person, his face was full of envy. This person was good at using palm techniques. With just a pair of palms, he defeated invincible experts. For this, he even created a mystical technique called the 9 Buddha Sutra. The appearance of this person changed everything. He created the World Alliance and recruited the 4 great experts. With his charisma and martial arts, he continued to conquer the remaining experts of the pugilistic world. Finally, one day, he defeated everyone, and the World Alliance unified the pugilistic world. Unfortunately, the heavens were jealous of geniuses, and he died before he reached 40. What a pity! Li Fan felt some admiration in his heart. If this person lived in the same era as him, he could at least fight with him. After his death, the 4 great experts were equal in strength, and no one was willing to submit to the other. They couldn't choose a new alliance leader. Thus, the 4 of them left the World Alliance and established their own 4 major alliances. The World Alliance fell apart and ceased to exist. However, from then on, the 4 major alliances appeared in the pugilistic world, and they continue to exist until today. First is Riding Horse Whistling West Wind, the alliance leader, Smiling Buddha Dragon Feng Yu. Other than that, there's also Riding Sword Xiao Qingfeng, the alliance leader, White Queen Luo Shuewu, who lives on the snowy mountain all year round. There's also the mysterious and ghostly Xitigarbha Tomb Keeper, the alliance leader, Blackface Bodhisattva, but no one knows his name. Finally, there's the famous White Tiger Hall of the pugilistic world. This is an alliance famous for cultivating soldiers, and the current alliance leader is Wan Bei. Li Fan felt as if a new door had opened for him. Young hero Li, with your skills, if you enter the 4 major alliances, you will definitely have a bright future. I, Riding Horse Whistling West Wind, am currently recruiting talents from all over the world. If young hero can join, it will definitely be like adding wings to a tiger. I don't have any thoughts of joining any alliance at the moment, sorry. Li Fan didn't agree. Although he was curious, he was just curious. Young hero Li, our Riding Horse Whistling West Wind is still very sincere. Su Jinrong chuckled and said, I hope that young hero Li can consider it. Can't I not join the alliance? I like to be a loner. As expected of alliance leader Murong's fiancé, you really have the same temper. Su Jinrong declined to comment. You are no longer the high school student Li Fan from before. Little Overlord Li Fan, you will eventually have to choose a faction in the pugilistic world. If not today, it might be tomorrow. Chapter 400. Su Jinrong threw a bunch of inexplicable words and left. He walked a short distance and came to a corner. Standing under the streetlight, he took out his phone and made a call. He hasn't agreed yet, but he will agree sooner or later. Su Jinrong didn't know who he was talking to. Just as he was about to say something, he suddenly frowned. He stretched out his left hand and caught a small knife with a red tassel in front of his eye. Dang! He only caught one knife. The other knife hit his phone and nailed it to the wall beside him. The phone emitted some sparks and then completely broke. Su Jinrong was a little surprised. Firstly, this unique knife-throwing technique could effectively attack him. It was definitely not a good person. Secondly, this person could actually follow behind him silently. He must be an expert. Who is it? Su Jinrong kicked his violin case and popped out two short knives, which he held in his hands. His face was completely cold, which was the complete opposite of his previous smiling state. Cold face Golden Blade, you've finally shown your true colors. An emotionless voice appeared. At the same time, a black shadow stood in the darkness. The streetlight couldn't illuminate his figure and only his feet could be seen. Riding a horse in the west wind. You are all hypocrites. The other party mocked mercilessly. You hate us so much. Could it be that you are from the Leaning Sword Laughing Breeze? Su Jinrong spun the two knives and sized up the person in the black shadow. This person was very mysterious. Hiding in the shadows, he gave off an even more threatening feeling. The four major alliances are all dogs. That person scolded. It seems that you are from the Murong Villa. Su Jinrong laughed again. If it wasn't for his iceberg-like face, it was hard to imagine why this person was called Cold Golden Knife. This was because only when he was facing an enemy would he become as cold as ice, like the cold steel of an iceberg. Even if I don't like that person, he still belongs to the Murong Villa. The black shadow reminded Su Jinrong, next time you dare to approach my Murong Villa, this knife will pierce your throat. Since you are here, why not have a fight first? Su Jinrong suddenly held two golden sabers and dashed into the shadows. However, the black shadow from before seemed to have vanished into thin air without a trace. He runs really fast. Su Jinrong put away the golden knife and played with the red-tasseled flying knife. The flying knife had the word Murong printed on it. Obviously, it was also the work of Murong Villa. Clairvoyant In Tian Tian. Su Jinrong sneered. Murong Ing actually sent her to keep an eye on Li Fan. Interesting. However, it's hard to say how long Murong Ing can be the leader of the Wulin Alliance. As he spoke, he swung the red-tasseled flying knife, and this flying knife stared at another flying knife. Li Fan did not notice that someone was following him. When he returned to his residence, the house was almost tidied up. All the furniture was covered with a white, dust-proof cloth. It was obvious that this was done by Tai Zhu. A black Bentley was parked outside. It was Murong Ying's car. Son-in-law, please get in the car. Tai Zhu opened the car door. The car was still emitting heat. Obviously, they had been waiting for a long time. When Li Fan got in the car, Murong Ai and Murong Ing were already sitting opposite. The two beautiful girls were very eye-catching. It was a dream of many people to be able to sit in the same car with these two beautiful girls. However, this kind of thing was happening in front of him. It was indeed a bit like a dream. In particular, these two girls basically belonged to him. If these two sisters could serve him together. When Li Fan thought of this, he felt that his heartbeat was a little faster. He hurriedly adjusted his state of mind and calmed his emotions. What? Don't you have anything to say to me? Murong Ying's left leg pressed on her right leg. The scenery under the Cheongsam was very attractive. What do you want to say? Li Fan was stunned for a moment. He did not know what Murong Ing wanted. Do you feel that there is too little communication between us as husband and wife? Li Fan asked with a smile. That's not what I'm asking. Murong Ing seemed to be somewhat unhappy. It was as if Li Fan had done something bad and hid it from her. Li Fan was somewhat apprehensive. Could it be that she found out about the matter between him and Murong AI? Murong AI was leaning on the armrest and sleeping. She was unable to respond to Li Fan's gaze. This situation doesn't seem too good. You know about it? What do you think? Murong Ing let out a sneer. Shouldn't I know? It's not what I want. That temptation is very big. Of course it's big. It's big enough to make you tempted, right? I know I shouldn't be tempted, but as a man, I might make this kind of mistake. Stupid man. Murong Ing ridiculed. For a little so-called ideal, you can be tempted. Ideal? Yes, it's ideal. Murong Ing resolutely and decisively said, what a good man's ambition is everywhere? Straight man cancer. Li Fan was a bit confused. It seemed that the two of them were not talking about the same thing. In the past, Long Fengyu also used this trick to recruit me and was driven out by me. Murong Ing reminded Li Fan, don't get close to anyone from the Four Alliances. They are a bunch of psychopaths. Fighting for power and position, they have forgotten the original intention of a martial artist. I will definitely not be too close to them. You can rest assured. Li Fan relaxed and laughed. I still have my own force to develop. How can I have time to get involved in their mess? Wait a minute. Li Fan suddenly thought of something. He squinted his eyes and stared at Murong Ing in front of him. You sent someone to follow me. You should learn a lesson. Murong Ing said, he knows how to differentiate between stalking and protecting. I don't want your deformed protection. Li Fan was a bit unhappy. Murong Ing, you can't make me follow you all the time, right? I'm not a child. Do I need you to send someone to protect me? Li Fan, have you ever thought about what kind of position you are in right now? Murong Ing reminded Li Fan, you provoked the Imperial Secret Service and the Golden Eagle Castle. If not for the Murong Villa supporting you, do you think you can still live until now? I have never attached myself to the Murong Villa. This is only your opinion. Outsiders will not think so. Murong Ing said, the four major alliances in the Jianghu are all ambitious. An expert like you, who has no organization, is the biggest attraction to them. You are a warrior, a weapon, and a bargaining chip. I, Li Fan, will not become anyone's weapon. Li Fan said in a deep voice, I will become the world's #1 martial artist. Excessive confidence is narcissism. Murong Ing reminded Li Fan, I don't want you to become that kind of person. Chapter 401. No matter what you expect of me, I am me. Li Fan stubbornly says, sooner or later, I will defeat you as well, wife. Good, I look forward to that day. Murong Ing says, I hope it won't be too long because you are still far from it. I will catch up soon. You also have to work hard. Li Fan can now operate 2 forms at the same time, which greatly increases his fighting strength. Therefore, Li Fan's confidence is quite high. The only thing that makes him uncomfortable is that he is still stuck at the bottleneck. If he does not break through this bottleneck, his internal force will not be able to advance. Your current strength is the strength of 5 dragons. Murong Ing crosses her hands and proudly smiles. I now have the strength of 9 dragons and 4 tigers. A generation's master is only a step away from me. What the? Li Fan is so angry that he wants to curse. Where did this monster Murong Ing come from? Her training ability is too strong. She is only 20 years old and she is about to break through to generation's master? If Murong Ing knows Li Fan's thoughts, she would probably be depressed. After all, Murong Ing has been practicing martial arts since she was 3 years old. All the way until today, she has trained for 17 years to reach today's achievement. But how long has Li Fan been practicing martial arts? 1 year. At the very most, it is only a year's time. In this 1 year's time, he actually changed from a high school student who does not know any fist techniques to a peak martial arts master. Who can do this? Even the genius of the Heaven Alliance, Lu Jinchan, does not have such a powerful talent. Something is wrong. Murong Ing suddenly remembers that Lu Jinchan is also a pure yang body expert. Moreover, he seems to have a few supreme beauties by his side who have high martial art skills. Damn it. If I also have a pure yang body, how good would that be? God is really unfair. Why did he give a pure yang body to a man? I'm looking forward to when you'll let me fight with my full strength. Murong-ing took the initiative to provoke Li Fan. After all, she was somewhat unconvinced in her heart. I won't keep you waiting for too long. Also, there's something I need to clarify. Li Fan decided to make some things clear first. Tell me about it. Murong-ing switched her legs, which made Li Fan lower his eyes. If you keep looking, I'll dig out your eyeballs. The scenery is good, why can't I watch it? You're courting death. Then kill me. When Li Fan acted like a rascal, Murong-ing really loved and hated him at the same time. Let's talk about you first. Forget it if you don't want to say it. Oh right. I was so busy looking at the scenery that I almost forgot to get down to business. You're still talking nonsense. Look at you, we're talking about serious matters. Why are you getting off topic again? Murong-ing crushed the door next to her. Next time, you should drive a tank. Li Fan was speechless. This woman always liked to vent her anger on good things. Hurry up. Otherwise, you won't have a chance. Okay, then I'll say it. Li Fan said, it's still our agreement. Just like what Tai Zhu said, when we reach Murong's house, I'll give you face. But if your old man provokes me too much, I might not be able to endure it. You'd better endure it. Murong-ing reminded, he's a true grandmaster of his generation. His power is not something you can imagine. How strong is a grandmaster of his generation? You can't imagine it until you reach this level. When Murong-ing said it, there was a reverent tone. To be able to make this proud and arrogant Wolin Alliance leader revere, it must be that kind of power at the peak. In Jianghu, a grandmaster of his generation is very rare. Every grandmaster of his generation can be said to be a national treasure. Didn't the previous commander of the Brocade Guard use evil attack to break through the last restriction and become a grandmaster of his generation? Didn't you see his power? I saw it. It's quite strong. Heh, that's because he just became a grandmaster of his generation. He hasn't understood it yet. Murong-ing's words shocked Li Fan. What he showed was only 1/10 of his power. Is a grandmaster really that strong? Did I lie? Murong-ing rolled her eyes at Li Fan. In Jianghu, there are a few grandmasters of their generation. Each of them is a national treasure. Jianghu has rules. They won't easily make a move. Because once they make a move, the rules of Jianghu will be changed. What about the leaders of the 4 alliances? How strong are they? They're far from it. Murong-ing smiled disdainfully. A few little kids who have reached the peak also dare to call themselves leaders. Murong-ing was the leader of Wolin Alliance while they were the leaders of their own alliances. Although the weight was different, Murong-ing's heart would still be somewhat unhappy. Their ambition far exceeds their strength. Murong-ing only left such a comment. In short, you have to be careful of them. Don't worry. Basically, we won't have any chance to meet. Are you sure? Murong-ing smiled sweetly. Every year during Chinese New Year, these 4 so-called leaders will come over to pay their respects. Damn, is there a need for your family to be so lively? The degree of bustle is beyond your imagination. Murong-ing first gave a warning to Li Fan. Murong's family is really big. Don't be too surprised when the time comes. The last time I went there weren't many. Not all of them live in Murong's house, but during Chinese New Year, they all have to come back. Murong-ing introduced, my father has 3 brothers, each brother has many children, plus my father's cousins and so on, all kinds of branches. To be honest, even until now, even I don't remember how many sisters I have with the same or different surnames. Damn, there are too many people. Li Fan felt a headache. He hated dealing with this kind of situation the most. In the past, when his parents asked him to greet relatives he didn't know, Li Fan felt very annoyed. What the hell? He didn't know those people, how could he greet them intimately? Do I need to greet them intimately? That's not necessary, just be polite. What if you can't be polite? Don't go too far. I have to be polite. Murong-ing glared fiercely at Li Fan. Anyway, I will try my best to avoid unnecessary social interactions. Murong-ing said this. She was very tolerant of Li Fan. Li Fan was embarrassed to ask for too much. Since his fiancée gave in, he had to show the bearing that a man should have. That's good, then I will also try my best to be polite. Not knowing why, Li Fan already started to have a headache. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.